You're awfully quiet.
When it gets silent like that, reminds me of church. We all know person in the robe's coming in. Good morning and welcome. Welcome to my board members, and we'll get to that in a minute by name. Our in-person attendees, like to see the chairs full, frankly. So thank you for making the time to come and be here so we can see you. That being said, we're not adverse to people meeting online, so welcome to the online folks, one of whom is going to be a board member, which we'll hear in a minute. So I do know you all heard that those folks who are online have been logged in. So they're on the screen of Mr. Knapp next to me. And our meetings are being recorded, as it was said. So I call this Central Valley Flood Protection Board meeting of Friday, May 17th to order. And first up is to establish board member attendance and quorum. So Board Clerk Jonah Knapp will call the attendance.
Member Bosler? Here. Member Countryman? Is absent. Member Griego?
Here.
Secretary Johnson?
I'm here. Good morning.
Vice President Valines? Here. President Dolan?
I'm here. So we do have a quorum. We have 4 of us present for now, and I think we expect board member Countryman, but missing for now, and Secretary Johnson online. So we have 5. I minored in math, but I've lost my ability to add and subtract. I don't know what happened. I'll put it right there. 5 members present, 1 online for now. So just 4 right now. So I'm going to then ask our executive officer if there are any introductions or announcements. You can take them in either order you wish.
Yes, I have farewells, introductions, and announcements.
I have to get my tissue for the farewell. It's not something I like to hear.
Well, we'll start with farewells so we can have good news to follow. So we wish a fond farewell to Sagun Batari, who has been an engineer in our permitting section for the past 2 years. Sagun has been a remarkable member of the permitting team, known for her dedication and contributions to the section. We're sad to see her go as she moves over to DWR operations and maintenance and dam safety services.
Well, yeah, sorry about that. I'm sure we'll see you again if you're in operation and maintenance. And then you can come back if you would like. Okay.
All right, on to better news. I am pleased to introduce Diana Chen, who has joined our permitting section. Diana's in the back.
And Ms. Chen needs
Stand up.
to stand.
Diana
Good
is
morning.
Diana's a professional engineer who earned her BS in civil engineering from UC Davis and her MS in civil engineering from UCLA. She has worked for consulting companies and is coming to us from the State Water Project, where she assisted with the design, testing, implementation, and maintenance of the cost allocation and billing by processing, analyzing, and integrating data. We are thrilled to have her on the team.
Yes, wow, welcome. Thank you for that background. Very impressive, Ms. Chen.
I am also very pleased to announce that Sandy Chow has joined us as our new budget manager. Sandy is experienced in budgets and spent the past 5 years supporting the flood operations section and the fiscal management of grants and contracts in DWR. Prior to that, she worked supporting the facility planning, construction, and management division at CDCR, my old stomping grounds.
Did you know her?
I did not.
Well, you do now.
I do now. We are excited to have her join us. I am excited to have her join us. And she's already shown a great attitude and fantastic expertise. So very pleased to have her on the team.
We are. I see a smile there on you, boss, Catherine.
I think Catherine's the happiest of all.
Yes, we've had a bit of a blank spot there for a while, so we're very happy to have you on board.
On to announcements. I am very pleased to announce that Zubair Dosu has been selected to manage our new deferred encroachment compliance section.
And he is supposed to stand. We now call you sir.
Zubair has been with the board for 4 years in the enforcement section. He's known for his excellence in personal skills and problem-solving orientation, as well as boundless enthusiasm. He's an active participant in the Floodplain Management Association, where he is the program coordinator for the association's mentorship program. I'm very happy for him, but perhaps happier for us that he's the new manager of this new section and will surely launch it well. Congratulations, Zubair.
There's your smile. I'm used to that. Appreciate that you always do that. Well deserved. And congratulations and welcome.
That concludes announcements.
Announcements and, okay, announcements and introductions from our executive officer. Any announcements other than that? Any look at board members' head? No? Anybody want to announce something? Public comment, folks, get your time later. Okay. So let me just briefly review the agenda that's before us. You will let me know if Brian raises his hand.
Yes.
And if you can't hear or want to say something, Secretary Johnson, please let me know. We'll let Jonah know. Okay, normally our next item is minutes, but because of this short-term time from last meeting to this, we're not going to have minutes to approve today. We normally meet the fourth Thursday, now we're at the third, so there we are. Item 5, I think I have that correct. Consent items, there's 2. One is a permit and the other is a request to submit a letter of intent. Those will be described when we get to it. Item 6 is the time that's called public comments. That's for comments that are related to our work but are not on the agenda today. Item 7 is middle of a legislative update. Executive officer may or may not be brave enough to talk about the budget. Item 8 is a placeholder today. It's the number that we give for the United States Army Corps of Engineers, but they have nothing today to provide to us. Item 9 is identified as board items, and there are 2. One is a hearing for a request of approval of a permit, and the other is a presentation that we have requested from our board staff of the Flood System Improvement Branch. We look forward to having known and public and recorded information of the good work that you do. Item 11, reports submitted for board member interest from the various branches, divisions, offices of our staff. Item 12 is for we board members to provide any information about what we might be doing or hope to be doing. Item 13 tells us when we're to meet again and where. Item 14 is closed session, but because we don't have a full board and it's kind of inappropriate to do online, we're not going to do it. Unless you tell us we need to, Mr. Dewar. Okay, we won't do that. And then we adjourn. It's always a challenge for this president to predict the flow of a meeting and how long it will take. But I just want you to know that there might be some times that I feel it's appropriate or maybe there's a need to have a brief break. So just to let you know, but I don't think we're going to be here long enough to have a lengthy lunch break. Any comments? Any corrections? Usually he tells me if I misstate. Appreciate that. Okay, then we'll go. We'll start the agenda. We will be going right away to consent items. There are 2 items. The first is to approve permit. Consent items are announced and they're taken as one vote to approve. They are considered fully vetted and routine and appropriate to have a vote without a presentation. So the first is to approve permit number 19776. And I'm supposed to say this with one breath because there's no punctuation. Merced Irrigation District, Merced River Agricultural Diversion and Fish Habitat Enhancement Project, Cowell 2 Diversion Site, Merced River, Merced County. What? I did that, okay. And item B, that was item A. Item B is to approve staff's findings and authorize a letter of intent for 2 levee systems to be sent to the Army Corps. That's the first step toward a system-wide improvement framework and having a plan to improve levee systems. So this is for the American River Flood Control District, American River Right Bank, the Natomas East Main Drain Canal, also known as NIMDIC, I think, that levee system, Dry Creek, Arcade Creek levee system, and to ask our executive officer to sign and transmit the letter. Okay, anyone want to remove an item? No, no, no. Anyone in the room want to talk about one of these? I know there's representatives here. Thank you for being that. Any hands up online? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda then?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve by member Griego. Second by,
I'll second that.
second by member Bosler. Thank you. We will call the roll on that, please.
Member Bosler,
Aye.
member Countryman is absent. Member Griego,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson,
Aye.
Vice President Valines, President Dolan.
Aye. The ayes have it. I know, we go back and forth between yes and aye. It's just our little internal joke you now know about. Okay, that item, consent item passes. 4 votes. Do I have this right? 5 votes. 4 here, 5 there. 1 absent, and there is 1 vacancy to the board. Okay. Thank you. Now I can relax for a bit. Item number 6 is public comment. This is the time for someone to come forward, someone or someones to come forward to present a comment on something that, pointing to me because I did something. Oh, with cards. Okay. If they have a card, I'll call on that. Something that's in our jurisdiction but not on the agenda. Mr. Tom Engler. You're up first. Oh, we have some more cards. We kind of have a time limit to 3, so you know that.
I'll do my best.
Okay, and I'll be kind.
President Dolan, members of the board, Tom Angler, MBK Engineers, here on behalf of the Central Valley Flood Control Association. A couple items that I wanted to raise to the board's attention today. One of them is one I've previously raised with a few members and staff, and that's with the drilling program plan timelines and the permit timelines that are taking 2 years to get through Section 408 approvals at the Army Corps. So 2 years to get through approvals for drilling, and then another 2 years to get through the actual permit process. So projects are being delayed by 3, 4, sometimes as many as 5 years. I don't know why the Corps changed the process in recent months, because I'm not aware of anywhere nationally where hydrofracturing has become an issue, and that's what the DIPPs are supposed to prevent. So the Corps approval process then triggers CEQA or NEPA, cultural, and all the various environmental approvals before they can approve those permits. So just wanted to bring it to your attention. I think this is something that both board and Corps staff have been trying to work as diligently as possible to streamline, but their hands are tied because of the process and regulations at the Corps. So I'm hoping you guys can raise it to the Colonel's attention. Thank you. Sorry about that. The second one is PL 8499. We just recently received denial letters for many PL 8499 projects, and those kind of raised some concerns. Over 200 sites submitted, 27 the Corps are going forward with. The rest of them they denied for various reasons. Some of them are ineligible and should have been denied, but there's others that some of my districts had pre-existing damages that the Corps had been saying monitor, 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 and now the erosion's progressed into the levee prism, and they decided that because there was pre-existing damage, they don't have to repair it under PL 8499. That's a change from every other PL 8499 process ever. I understand there's a boil that's too far away from the levee, so they don't consider it damage to the levee. That's another potential issue. And then there's a whole slew of other issues out there. So just something that, again, we get frustrated when we're investing all this time, effort, and all our resources into staying eligible, and then we get denied for reasons that we've never been denied for. So again, another issue for the board to raise with the Colonel and see if we can get some movement there. So thank you, and I'll let the next person.
I just wondered if you could give an example of, I mean, it's really hard, it seems, to pinpoint like the exact reason for the failure. And I mean, so if there was documentation of some deficiency before the event, is that what, and in all cases, was it denied?
In the case that I'm aware of in RD 1001, 3 erosion sites on the Bear River, 2 of them showed up in previous Corps erosion inspections, and it said eroding, but they were not critical. The Corps deems them critical once they impact the levee prism. So the previous inspections did not get into the levee prism. The 2023 event got it into the prism. Fortunately for RD 1001, DWR fixed these sites, so we don't have to worry about it. But it raises the concern that the Corps is denying these sites like this.
I think, but I'm not sure. So I'll just say this, I'm hoping then if we're not planning to have some kind of discussion on this at a workshop or a board meeting at some point, because it's serious. And you all want to know what's going on, so do we, so we should do it in public.
Thank
Public
you.
call. Thank you. That's for a permit item, public comment. Okay. Mr. Spalding. We actually have some spots here for an agenda item. So you are public comment. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, President Dolan, directors, Pete Spalding from American River Trees. Thanks again for letting me say a few words about the Army Corps of Engineers erosion control contracts 3B and 4B on the Lower American River. I'll be quick. As you probably know, the Lower American River Task Force and SAFCA have reconvened the Bank Protection Working Group. They met via Zoom on April 30th. Many of us who've been critical of contracts 3B and 4B were invited, and we actively participated. We really appreciate this, and we'll continue to work with them, suggest agenda items, ask questions, offer comments. We were told that the slides and probably the recording of the meeting would be posted on the Lower American River Task Force website, the SAC Levee Upgrades website, or the Army Corps website, or someplace. We're keeping an eye open to see if that will actually happen. We appreciate your time at every meeting. I know that Brenda Gustin and I have mentioned several times about the need for a workshop and a hearing before the formal hearing where you vote on the American River Common Features Project, and you've assured us that that will happen. But I do ask that as you plan that workshop, you include on the agenda organizations that have raised concerns about the project and allow them to make presentations too and take questions from your board as well as the Corps. Groups like American River Trees, Save the American River Association, organizations like the Sierra Club, the Environmental Council of Sacramento, Center for Biological Diversity, and agencies like the Sacramento County Regional Parks Department and others. You should have the 900 comment letters that were submitted to the Corps and Department of Water Resources on this project. So that should help to identify the appropriate participants. Please invite them to present and describe their concerns before you take any formal action and have a dialogue with them. Thank you again for all you do and for giving us the time to speak during these public comment periods. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? I have some cards here, but they are identified for an agenda item. Anyone else who wishes to provide a public comment? I see no one standing in the room. Do I have any hands up? Yes? Please, oh, Member Countryman?
Yes, I just wanted to let you know I'm here.
Oh, okay. We'll put you as, when did you arrive online? Have you heard anything that we've done to point to this place?
Yeah, I heard Tom. Well, I heard Tom Engler, and then
Okay.
this last speaker.
Okay, you got here for public comments. All right. You missed the consent. But yeah, glad you're here. Hope you're all right.
Sorry.
Okay, all right. Well, you got you and Secretary Johnson. I can see your faces if I look. Okay, what's the other one? Well, I can't read. That's too far away. You need to just say, you say it.
Gay Jones.
You say it. Turn your mic on and say it.
Gay Jones.
Is that Gabe Jones?
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Good morning, board members, staff, and members of the public. My name is Gay Jones, and I live in Sacramento County. I am also a retired captain with the Sacramento Fire Department, and as such, was intimately involved in the flood fights of '86 and '97. Today, I serve as a director for Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District and as a Sacramento County LAFCO commissioner. However, today I am here and speaking as chair of my community association, BRECA, the Butterfield Riviera East Community Association. We are located on river left of the American River, just upstream from Mayhew Drain above Watt Avenue. I have one question for the board, and I have been asking it over the last several months to all the associated agencies and jurisdictions regarding bank protection and erosion control on the lower American River. My one question is, has the proposed launchable rock bench design by the Army Corps of Engineers been used in any other location? The
We cannot
concern,
answer that.
I beg your pardon?
We're taking your question, but we cannot answer it.
Oh, ma'am, I understand. It's public
Okay.
comment. And
Okay.
I will be glad to send all my contact information. The concern is with the projects, as a previous speaker, Mr. Spalding mentioned, 3B and 4B. The concern is, it's my hypothesis is that this has never been done before, and it would serve the residents and everyone affected by this if there would be a pause to see if the work that has been completed holds during the rainy season. The issue is that I don't think we have any real live models of this design working. And so I would appreciate any information that you and your board might be able to come up with through your contacts. I have asked this question in public comment to the Army Corps of Engineers, and writing, email, and verbal. So I'm hoping I can get an answer from your board. I want to thank you very much for this time and opportunity. And please feel free to contact me at any time, or if you have any questions, I'm available now.
All right. Well, look for you sending your information.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other hands up? Okay. Last call? We will move on. Okay. So we move on. We received a written legislative update from you, Mr. Executive Officer Leaf. Did you want to highlight anything? Been to any budget hearings lately?
The May revision was released last Friday, and we're working through the questions that we're getting from legislative consultants.
Okay. Okay, thank you for that. It's gonna be a challenging time for everybody. Not one we've asked for. No comments there? Glad you're in this chair. We are. We're glad you're here.
I will just make an observation.
Member Bosler?
Yeah, sorry, about the May revision that was released last Friday, and then on Tuesday, more details were released. There is a provision that will have, you know, a pretty big impact across state government, which is this across the board reduction in state operations. That's in addition to a elimination of vacant positions. And so I think, you know, this is going to be something that every state agency, if it's sustained, which I assume it probably will be, because often it's seen as something that's quote unquote free, but it's not. It has profound impacts on the operations of state government, I would argue. And so I just think that's something we need to, I don't know, somebody said to me earlier this week, like, we need to actually think about how to be smarter about what we work to sustain that kind of reduction, because we can't do everything the same with that kind of reduction. And that goes for the small little board that we operate in versus, you know, the large operations as well. One thing that I have as like history from the Great Recession, which I'm sure many of the staff that worked in state government here have, is that because of some of these mini rounds of across the boards cuts, we ended up cutting things that were really hard to rebuild. And so it's really going to be important for managers across state government to be mindful of that, so that we aren't cutting into operations that are penny wise and pound foolish. So it's going to be an important thing to work through. I'm not saying that there isn't places where we can like tighten our belts and that kind of thing, but it does take a lot of ingenuity and thoughtfulness. And there are some new changes, my understanding is, around DGS processes and CalHR processes, and hopefully those things are like net positive in terms of efficiencies. But I haven't evaluated them myself, but I heard about them this week. So just wanted to make that comment. The other thing that I think is really important for the flood community to think about is that the governor was pretty positive about the opportunity about a bond at his press conference on Friday. There's obviously like huge needs that are well outlined in our flood protection plan. And I just, you know, hope that there's going to be an opportunity, if a bond goes forward to the ballot, that flood would be prominently in that, because we have a lot of need.
Thank you for your comments. Yes, we could transcribe those somewhere and give them to everybody who's on a budget subcommittee. That would be great. Yeah, sometimes when you cut things, it becomes harder to repair later on. If you don't fix a leaky roof, then you're destroying your home. I look at it, so it's a hard road to go. So thanks for that. Yes, and I'm hoping we will be active in discussions if there are to be any bonds. So I could be part of that, because it is our job. We may be a small organization, but our job is to protect lives, property, infrastructure, and improve the environment, not small towns. Okay. You don't want to say anything else? Thank you for putting all that together. Appreciate those comments. So. No hands up? Okay. Oh, we have someone else? Austin, what? Austin Berryman? Oh, you took your hand down. Okay. I don't see any of that. The letters are too small for me. Okay, thank you. Okay, then we'll proceed. What? We're on item 9, which is called board items, and it's 2. The first one is A. And it is before us to consider approving permit number 19320, California Department of Parks and Recreation's Habitat Restoration Project located in Butte County. Our operations branch staff member, Umberto Negrete, will provide the introduction and information. And last night about 6:30, I got a PowerPoint, so I know you have a PowerPoint. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Things getting away from me. I think doesn't want to stay. Okay. Good morning, President Dolan, Vice President Belines, and members of the board.
Would you adjust the mic just a little bit?
It
more
won't
toward
stay.
Yeah. It looks like it's a little wonky there.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Chavez. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, it looks like we need to get to the first page on the presentation.
And this is Umberto.
Yes, hi, good morning. As soon as we get to it, here we go. Good morning, President Dolan, Vice President Belines, and members of the board. My name is Humberto Negrete, permitting engineer with the board, and I am presenting for your consideration agenda item 9A for permit number 19320, which is a restoration project near Chico brought forth for consideration by the California Department of Parks and Recreation. This presentation summarizes my staff report findings and recommendations to the board. The applicant is the California Department of Parks and Recreation, and they are requesting to restore a 43-acre parcel from an orchard to riparian habitat by removing the existing orchard, 2 existing berms, and non-native vegetation, then replanting the parcel with riparian vegetation, native grasses, with a flow-through meadow, buffer zone, grassland, recreation trails, irrigation lines, and vehicle barriers. The existing well will be authorized to provide irrigation to the site. The following slides are to get an understanding of where the project and the interested parties are located. This location map shows the project is located in Butte County, southwest of the city of Chico. This vicinity map shows the applicant's parcel located approximately 5.5 miles southwest of the city of Chico. There are 3 streams that contribute to flows at the project site: the Sacramento River, Mud Creek, and Big Chico Creek, and are called out for reference. Due to the distance from the project location, the MNT Ranch location, an interested party with a private levee along Big Chico Creek is shown in the larger circle. This project site map shows the applicant's 43-acre parcel, outlined in white, located along River Road, a county road. Interested parties, Mr. John Knock and Mr. Larry Mendonca, associated with this request, are also shown for reference. M&T Ranch parcel is located approximately 1.5 miles to the east and was brought up in the previous map. During high water events, the parcel location experiences the combined flood flows of the Sacramento River, located within and along the west end of the parcel, Mud Creek, located along the east end of the parcel, and Big Chico Creek, located approximately a 1/4 mile east of the parcel. The confluence of the 3 streams is located approximately 1/2 mile south of the parcel. The applicable codes and regulations that give this board authority are shown for reference. Staff's analysis of the existing conditions included the following. The current land use is farmland with an agricultural well and earthen berms. excuse me. The Department of Parks and Recreation owns the southern or downstream parcel. The parcel is located between two of the three streams that contribute to the flood flows at the parcel location. And there are no U.S. Army Corps of Engineers levees located on the parcel. This map shows the existing parcel features along with the adjacent landowners and interested parties. One of the earthen berms is located along the eastern property line with Mr. Knock, and the small berm on the southern corner of the parcel is located within the applicant's parcels. The existing agricultural well and six-inch irrigation line to irrigate the parcel will be authorized to irrigate the new proposed plantings along with the 5 utility poles running from Mr. Mendonca's property to continue to supply power to the existing well. The project will change the current land use from farmland to recreational, which is in line with the board's easement at the location. The Mud Creek Channel is considered a federal civil works project, and the application needed a federal review and approval by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for components along Mud Creek. There is a federal levee located along the east bank of Mud Creek, which is not within the applicant's parcel. Go too fast. Staff's analysis of the proposed project conditions included the following work and project features. Removal of the existing walnut orchard, 2 existing earthen berms, non-native vegetation, and the 6-inch irrigation line. The planting of the riparian vegetation and native grasses and the flow-through meadow. The installation and operation of the temporary and permanent drip irrigation connected to the existing agricultural well, and the addition of the existing Big Chico Creek trail system, and the installation of the vehicle barriers along the northern property line. This map shows the post-project conditions, which include the following work activities and features previously stated. There is a 200-foot grassland buffer included along the northern property line with Mr. Mendonca. And the northern shows where the installation of the vehicle barriers along the northern property line. All these proposed encroachments adhere to all applicable Title 23 standards. Staff's analysis of the hydraulics included the following. A 2D dimensional hydraulic model was developed using RMA2 software, and it was used to analyze and assess the impacts to the flood flows from the restoration plans. An existing Sac River model was used, which extends upstream from Highway 32 near River Mile 200, downstream to River Mile 191, and includes the flood flows of Big Chico Creek and Mud Creek. Light detection and ranging data, or LiDAR, was collected by the Department of Water Resources as part of the 2010 Central Valley Floodplain Evaluation and Delineation, or CVFED. It was used as the topographical data in the model. Bathymetric data, where available, was used for the channel cross-sections. The design flows analyzed in the model are shown on the screen and are 260,000 cubic feet per second for the Sacramento River designated floodway, 2,000 cubic feet per second for the Big Chico Creek floodway, and 13,000 cubic feet per second for the Mud Creek floodway. The flows are from a board designated floodway study and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers O&M manuals. The results of the model and the hydraulic impacts are presented in a hydraulic report prepared by Iris and Associates. The changes to the water surface and elevations were analyzed for the existing and post-project conditions and then compared via maps to determine the extent and locations of the impacts. The water surface for both conditions are shown in the project parcel outlined in white. When compared, the majority of the water surface changes are shown south of the flow-through meadow, shown on the right map with the red arrow. This map shows only the changes in yellow in the water surface elevation for the proposed project conditions simulated at the design flows previously shown. The hydraulic impacts for the proposed project conditions show a maximum increase of 0.2 feet or 2.4 inches in water surface elevation occurring at the south end of the flow-through meadow, and increases of 0.1 feet or 1.2 inches occurring in the immediate surrounding yellow area. This increase in elevation is the result of the increased conveyance through the flow-through meadow as compared to the existing orchard with berms. The analysis shows that the increase in the water surface elevation is attenuated within the adjacent southern riparian parcel, which is also owned by the applicant. Like the impacts due to the water surface elevation, the impacts due to flow velocities for the existing and post-project conditions were analyzed for any changes. The existing and post-project flows remained in the same range. The post-project conditions show an increase in flow velocity of 2 feet per second through the flow through meadow and decrease of 1 foot per second in Mud Creek, shown on the the red arrows. This map only shows the changes in the design flow velocities for the post-project conditions simulated at the design flows, and shows the increase in velocity is greatest through the flow-through meadow, highlighted in red. Shear stress between the existing and post-project conditions were generated from the model for the design flow condition to assess erosion and sedimentation potential. An addendum to the hydraulic report shows the existing shear stress within the parcel ranged from 0.1 to 0.4 pounds per square foot, with most of the property experiencing 0.1 pound per square foot. The highest shear stress for the post-project conditions is 0.8 pound per square foot located within the flow-through meadow. A small decrease of shear stress within the Mud Creek channel was a result of the berm removal. There was no shear stress found along the East Mud Creek levee. The image shows the change in shear stress between the existing and post-project conditions, and shows that the shear stress impacts due to the post-project conditions mirror the velocity impacts. This map only shows the changes in the shear stress for the post-project conditions simulated at the design flows and mirrors the velocity impacts. Due to previous concerns regarding sediment transport, a sediment analysis was conducted. It noted the primary sources of sediment are agricultural and depends on changes in soil cover, sediment type, flood flow depth, and velocity. The critical velocity index method was used in the hydraulic analysis to assess the sediment movement. The addendum to the hydraulic report has a more detailed sedimentation transport assessment and will be summarized here. The CBI maps demonstrates that the land immediately upstream of the project site is mobilizing sediment under existing condition and will continue to mobilize sediment whether the project is completed or not. Therefore, the sediment transport impacts are considered negligible, as the sediment mobilization is already occurring under existing conditions and will continue even if the project is not constructed. Sorry, I missed the previous map here. Staff's analysis of the hydraulic analysis includes the results of the hydraulic analysis demonstrated that removal of the orchard, berms, and vegetation and conversion to riparian habitat in grasslands with a flow-through meadow and grassland buffer creates a higher hydraulic conveyance potential with negligible impacts to the flood system and adjacent parcels. The 2.4-inch maximum increase in the water surface elevation at the south end of the flow-through meadow and the 2 feet per second maximum increase in the flood flow velocity to the same end of the flow-through meadow are attenuated within the applicant-owned parcels. The project hydraulic conditions do not result in any adverse impacts to the state plan of flood control. A geotechnical investigation was not required for the proposed project because the project encroachments are considered to be a sufficient distance to have no potential adverse impacts to the Mud Creek levee. The Mud Creek levee center line is located more than 300 feet away from the parcel, and there were no proposed project excavations that would penetrate the levee prism. This project's relevant background information will be presented for the members' consideration. The applicant has been seeking a board permit since their initial permit application submission in 2008. Changes in legislation caused the applicant to resubmit the application in 2009. The board notified interested parties in March 2010 of the proposed project, and public comments were received for the design at the time. The proposed project was presented to the board under permit number 18576 in the June 2011 meeting as an informational briefing. The board recommended that the applicant and interested parties try to resolve the issues. The concerns with the original design under permit 18576 were that the max flow used for the Sac River was 170,000 cubic feet per second instead of 260,000 cubic feet per second, so the impacts of the flood system were unknown. Also, the site location in the where the confluence of three streams are located and the lack of vegetation maintenance was also a concern. Please note that the 1957 design flows for the Sacramento River, Mud Creek, and Big Chico Creek are 160,000 CFS, 13,000 CFS, and 7,500 cubic feet per second, respectively. In the 19320 hydraulic study, they used 260,000. The applicant used 260,000 cubic feet per second for the Sacramento River, which is based on the designated floodway hydrology, which is considered conservative. Also in 19320, Big Chico Creek flow used 2,000 cubic feet per second, which is above the 1,500 cubic feet per second from the operation and maintenance flow. The flows used in the updated hydraulic analysis are based on the designated floodway study for the Sacramento River and the O&M manuals flows for the Mud Creek and Big Chico Creek, and represent a conservative hydraulic condition. Prior to the June 2011 board meeting, the applicant was advised to seek the endorsement of the LMA for the area, which is Butte County. There was a meeting conducted in February 2011 between the board, the applicant, and Butte County to discuss any concerns. The following month, the Butte County Board of Supervisors voted against endorsing the project, but the applicant was able to enter those documents shown into the meeting record, which included the EIR addendum, a maintenance and monitoring plan, and a sediment review and analysis. Permit 18576 was subsequently closed. To obtain Butte County's endorsement or statement of no objection prior to seeking a new board permit, the applicant held countywide public meetings over a period of 5 years and took feedback from interested parties to incorporate it into the design. The efforts culminated with a list of proposed modifications provided by Butte County and interested parties to the applicant to obtain their endorsement. However, not all modifications were agreed to by the applicant, and there was no further coordination with the applicant and board reviewer. Butte County's concerns remained the same. This is the list of the modifications provided to the applicant to incorporate it into the design, and as shown along with the applicant's design solutions shown in red. So the first in the list was they wanted to reduce the size of the riparian forest, which the applicant reduced by 30%. They wanted to increase the size of the flow-through meadow, which the area was doubled. They wanted an increase of the northern grass buffer, which was increased by 100 feet. They wanted a full removal of the agricultural berms, which are going to be fully removed. They wanted an annual mowing agreement, which was agreed to. They wanted the removal of eucalyptus trees along the river road, which also was agreed to. They wanted no trespassing barriers along the northern property line, which is also incorporated into the design. Updated hydraulic analysis, which they performed, and they wanted an option for the Mendonca property to get excess soil from the project, which was agreed to. They wanted a 5-year maintenance agreement with Butte County, which the applicant developed, but the county hasn't endorsed. The county had erosion concerns at River Road, which they no longer have, and also design and construct a drainage channel at the grasslands buffer was requested. That request would change the scope of the work and make the project financially infeasible. And the analysis showed that it was not needed, so it was not incorporated into the design. That's one of the few things they did not agree to. The subsequent application to the board was submitted in April 2018 and assigned permit number 19320. It was then transmitted to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for their federal review, and notifications to interested parties were sent out in August 2018. The following 4 protest letters were received the next month. In September 17th, 2018, written letter from Mr. Knock was received. Around the same time, an undated letter was received from Mr. Mendonca. And additionally, 2 identical protest letters from M&T Ranch were received, one through email and one through the mail. Butte County, as the LMA and interested party, was informed that the application to permit the project under 19320 after the application was sent for federal review and approval. Butte County submitted public comment letter on December 15th, 2023, responding to the notification letter by county department. The agricultural commissioner was the only county department that had comments. The concerns were regarding pesticides, land use changes, and impacts to agricultural production. The agricultural commissioner's office in general does not support the loss of prime farmland. Board staff responded to Butte County that the concerns were determined to not be flood related. Mr. John J. Knock, an adjacent landowner to the east of the parcel, protested the approval of the project based on the following. He referred to the 2011 board meeting recommendations to resolve the issues and requested that the board suspend the application and instruct the applicant to return to negotiations. He claims that the EIR is over 10 years old and requests that the board require complete review of the entire EIR to ensure it is updated. He questions why Butte County is no longer the local maintaining agency and accuses the applicant of avoiding county land use and flood control concerns. Requests that the board confirm to the applicant that Butte County is the LMA. He believes an answer in the board's environmental questionnaire was incomplete due to not addressing the hazards this project possesses to adjacent agricultural lands. And he also protests that no plan for pest control. He also believes that the tree removal work is in the county right of way and could cause roadway instability, and would like the applicant to indemnify Butte County. He questions the Manny's roughness coefficients used in the hydraulic model and the source of the information for the EIR chart of coefficients were not provided. He charges that not providing the source of the coefficients is to get the preferred outcome. He also referenced hydraulic data used in the previous permit, 18576. He also has concerns about silt accumulation due to the land use change. He requested that the board require an independent review of the hydrology and model assumptions. He questions the updated 2017 hydraulic reports used the coefficients for orchards. He stated that the numbers used in the model are made up to support the project. Stated that portions of this property are excluded from updated report and does not account for the cumulative flows from Big Chico Creek. He questioned the model's accuracy based on flood events and requests the board to conduct a complete and independent review to the study to ensure accuracy. He questioned if the board is concerned about the project's impacts on the floodplain based on its review of cross-sectional elevation data from the model. He stated that the board needs to require cross-sectional data for the entire flood area for his parameters, and that the board should ensure the project fits into an optimally functional floodplain. Stated that proposed maintenance is inadequate for sediment removal. Potential sediment accumulation could redirect flood flows, and the board should require a condition to enforce removal of future silt deposits on the applicant's parcel. He requested an enforceable maintenance requirement before issuing a permit, and requested the postponement for more time to review materials on September 2018 and November 2023. The board has provided Mr. Knock with a copy of the staff report package provided to the board members for consideration. There has been no other analysis or studies presented showing different results. Mr. Larry Mendonca is also an adjacent landowner to the north of the project. He submitted an undated protest letter opposing the project based on the following. He protested the change in land use, which will create an enormous problem for his land. He questions the flood flow velocities, that they would be decreasing, which would cause debris accumulation and will redirect flows on his property, causing erosion. He referenced the applicant's southern parcel as an example on impacts to the flood channel drainage, and stated that it's not only a flood issue, but also a fire issue to many landowners. The updated hydraulic study shows that the changes in velocities mostly occurred through the flow-through meadow, and the only decrease in velocity was shown in Mud Creek Channel. The sedimentation analysis done also shows the sediment transport already occurring without the project. M&T Chico Ranch also submitted letters on the 17th and the 15th of March 2018, which were duplicate. They sought assurances that there will be no impacts to the private levee along Big Chico Creek, which is located approximately 1.5 miles away. Asked the board to ensure no future impacts on their levee is due to the project, or deny the permit if it can't be shown. Stated that the new U.S. Army Corps of Engineers Hamilton City setback levee project will heighten flood flows in the area. Stated that the land use conversion will further restrict flood flows and could threaten their levee along Big Chico Creek. The updated hydraulic analysis does not show any changes in the hydraulics at their private levee, and the board has not been provided any other study or analysis showing different. The following efforts were performed by board staff in preparing the permit for approval. It was originally scheduled as a hearing for the November 30th, 2023 board meeting, with hearing notices sent out to interested parties. It was rescheduled to the December meeting at the executive management's request. The December board meeting was then canceled, and the permit was rescheduled for the January 2024 meeting. The applicant requested that the January meeting be rescheduled to the February meeting due to conflicts in the hydraulic engineer's schedule. And it was then rescheduled from February to March at the request of board council to seek more input from Butte County. On February 29, 2024, there's a meeting with board staff and Butte County representatives to hear their concerns once again and provide an opportunity to revise or submit new comments. No new flood concern comments were received. On March 11, 2024, the hearing notices were sent out to the same interested parties about the upcoming meeting. On March 19th, 2024, a postponement request letter was received from Mr. Mendonca. On March 20th, 2024, a continued objection letter was received from the M&T Chico Ranch. On March 22nd, 2024, the board approved Mr. Mendonca's request to reschedule the hearing at the April 2024 board meeting. The April 17th, 2024 hearing notices were sent out again. The hearing was postponed to the May meeting at the request of the interested party. And this May 6th, the hearing notice was sent out for this meeting. The interested parties have requested additional time to review the permit package since the initial hearing notices were sent in November 2023. To date, there has been no evidence presented to refute the applicant's impact determinations. Additionally, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers conducted their federal review on the impacts to the Mud Creek Channel. They determined that the post-project conditions would not be injurious to the public works, and the review culminated with the letter of permission that will be incorporated into the issued permit. The board environmental staff reviewed the CEQA notice of determination and found that the project would not have a significant effect on the environment with mitigation measures. Based on staff's analysis of the proposed project, it is recommended that the board take the following actions: adopt the CEQA findings, approve the permit as provided in the staff report, and direct the EO to file the notice of determination with the state clearinghouse. That concludes my presentation. The department is here to answer any questions the board or interested parties may have related to the proposed project. Thank you. Richard?
Do board members have questions of our staff? Do you? Oh, Mr. Valline says to hear from everybody before we go back and talk to staff.
No. I was just curious.
Oh, we are going to hear. Yes, we are. We have representatives here from state parks. They'll be called next, and then we have two other cards that will be called after that. Mr. Negrete, did you visit the site?
I have not.
Were there any photos of the actual site, not map aerial photos, but photos of perhaps River Road, what the site looks like, what the adjoining property that's not, it is owned by parks, but is not part of this permit? Were any of those photos received?
Possibly. I was not the first reviewer. I'm like
Yeah.
maybe the fifth or sixth in line that's taken this one on. So it might have been with the initial permit that was submitted. I did not see any photos in my review.
Okay.
I
Okay.
mostly reviewed the studies and
Just curious. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you.
I'd like to invite the representatives of state parks at first.
Okay. Trish with the state parks is here.
Do you want to talk? Looks like someone else is standing up. Someone else is there. Good morning, sir. You are,
Good morning, President Dolan, Vice President Valines, board members. My name is Jay Chamberlain. I'm the Chief of the Natural Resources Division for California State Parks, and
I
I'll
thought
be,
you looked familiar.
it is good to see you. So I want to begin, I believe there is a presentation, but my remarks, I'll do my best to keep my remarks succinct, especially in acknowledgement of the very thorough treatment by staff. I want to thank the staff for their staff report and for their thorough evaluation and their report today. So, and I want to also add that joining me well, I should begin by saying, it won't surprise you that State Parks is here today in support of the staff report, and we will be seeking your concurrence with the staff recommendations and the adoption of this permit. Here to support me or to support State Parks, I want to also introduce folks, including our District Superintendent, Matt Teague. He's our District Superintendent for Northern Buttes District. Our District Natural Resources Program Manager, Ryan Martin. Our District Environmental Scientist, Trish Ladd-Shute. And our Natural Resources Division Environmental Program Manager and Head of our Natural Resource Program Support Unit statewide, Dr. Ron Melser. And also, I believe joining us online is Dusty Robinson from Ayers and Associates, who's been State Parks Hydrological and Engineering Consultants. So I respectfully request that should it be necessary, that we have the ability to make a rebuttal presentation drawing on these assets that we have here today. Thank you very much. So I won't reiterate everything that the staff has ably showed about the scope of this project, but I think this small but significant floodplain and riparian restoration project has significant regional, addresses significant regional goals as well as statewide significance. That's why I'm here today. State Parks, the staff has ably presented that this would restore native floodplain and riparian habitat on this 43-acre parcel. And, but importantly, and I think this came through in the staff presentation, this restoration project has been specifically designed and repeatedly revisited over the course of over 15 years to be compatible with the specific hydrological conditions arising from its location near the confluence of the Sacramento River, Big Chico Creek, and Mud Creek. And we've heard about the design elements that have been incorporated over time. Those include wide vegetation spacing, plantings that limit overstory vegetation, removal of agricultural berms, and the creation of this flow-through meadow, in addition to other attributes. So as you've heard from staff, the modeling indicates that the proposed project's conditions, as opposed to the current existing conditions, creates minimal changes in the project vicinity. So with that, and I'll come back to the site-specific things in a moment, but I want to sort of zoom out to contextualize this project within the bigger scheme of things, which, as this board well knows, has to include a discussion about the conservation strategy of the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan. This project would directly contribute to 3 of the 4 CVFPP conservation strategies legislatively derived goals and the associated measurable objectives. I won't read the slide to you, but certainly addressing both the species, the habitats and the species that can benefit from this restoration in this part of the Great Central Valley, as well as attenuating some of the stressors associated with invasive exotic species, among other things. Beyond these, it's also important to contextualize this project in the scheme of the suite of regional flood control and habitat restoration plans that have been developed over the years, dating back to, this is just a subset of them that we're citing here, but back to the late 80s, and certainly through the development of the CalFed Ecosystem Restoration Program in the early aughts, which gave rise to the acquisition and incorporation of this project in the initial restoration work that's being proposed here today, and that was brought to this board in through our application in 2008. In addition to that, of course, time has gone on and there's been a much larger suite of much more statewide focused restoration and stewardship strategies that specifically address the climate crisis and express the extreme need for us to accelerate the pace and scale of ecosystem restoration statewide. This is just a subset of those that are probably familiar to all, but they also include the recently released administration salmon strategy, and the now out in draft update to the California Climate Adaptation Strategy. I could go through these in detail, but I won't bore this board, who I assume is familiar with all of these. But all of these reports really reinforce the necessity of scaling up our ecosystem restoration work in light of all the different stressors that we're facing. And I would note that the draft Climate Adaptation Strategy also expressly talks about expediting regulatory approvals for these sorts of restoration projects, which is certainly something State Parks has worked very hard around the state to address. I think zooming or staying at this high level for just a moment with the indulgence of the board, I want to talk about State Parks because it's really important for this board to understand that as a trustee agency, State Parks is specifically charged by the legislature with protecting and restoring the representative examples of the most significant ecological regions of the state of California. That is in Public Resources Code 5019.53. Another statutory mandate stepping down from this is that we adopt plans, general plans, which such as the one we've adopted for this unit in 2006. That plan specifically is the controlling land use document and specifically identifies our goals, which if you squint and you can read the purpose of this state park, one of the 89 state parks, classified state parks, where we have that mandate, is to reflect a variety of native ecosystems and to reflect a diversity of diversity of habitat types in this region. So really importantly, that document in 2006 laid out our intent to restore this piece of property that we're calling the Singh property. So, and since then, of course, well, I should say that the adoption of a general plan is, of course, a CEQA event, a programmatic environmental impact report, assessed all of the potential impacts of this project at that time, or at a programmatic level, and then there's been a subsequent environmental compliance document associated with the larger ecosystem restoration project that this is part of. So again, you've heard from the staff presentation just how long this project has been under development. That is unusual. It is also a testament to State Parks staying at the table and working to address all the different issues that have been raised through more than a decade. And I think where we've landed is with a design that is compatible with our stated goals of ecosystem restoration that are very, very site specific, and a design that is compatible with flood management and the suite of environmental restoration goals that are both our department's goals and the goals of this administration and statewide. And I think the staff presentation report sufficiently noted it, but just to review for a moment, the encroachments that are proposed in this project will have negligible effects, in the words of the board staff, on the conveyance of flood flows, inconsequential impacts on sediment transport, and that these encroachments adhere to all applicable Title 23 standards. Again, really support the careful staff work that has gone into this. So I want to make just a few final notes. The project is compatible with ongoing agricultural uses in the area while meeting state park statutory requirements vis-a agricultural lands. We can get into them a little bit more, and it will have no significant impact on agricultural resources. Next, the project has incorporated tribal perspectives and has garnered support from the Machupta tribe, which is a tribe with which State Parks has a formal relationship through a memorandum of understanding that covers restoration activities such as these. And the the packet for this application also includes a letter of support from both the Machupta tribe and the Winneman Wintu tribe of Northern California. And those are part of the record. And this project also incorporates modest recreational elements. And these are really necessary to meet the well-documented needs of the underserved communities in the Great Central Valley. And to also conform with our alignment as a department with the Secretary of the Natural Resources Agency's Outdoors for All plan and our own department's Central Valley Vision, while also, again, limiting that access through our operational abilities of limiting parking space and making this day use only, among other things. So once again, in that theme, I think the record is replete with the amount of time and effort, which in my experience is extraordinary, about how hard the department has worked to stay at the table and meet the concerns that have been raised over the years, while also meeting the goals that we have professed quite publicly and to which we are held given our statutory requirements. So in sum, I believe the plan before you is a balanced project that contributes to the unique attributes of the region's most defining feature, which is of course a vibrant Sacramento River corridor. And that's also a demonstrably significant statewide resource. And so we are grateful for your attention. We're really grateful for the hard work of the staff in evaluating our application. And we ask for your concurrence with the staff recommendation and of course a motion and vote to approve the project. And again, respectfully request the opportunity to provide rebuttal testimony, not just by me, but by the staff and experts that we have here at the table. And I made a mistake by not also introducing Senior Staff Counsel Catherine Tobias, who's also here with us today and is also be a resource for this board. Many thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chamberlain. Do you have other state parks who will be speaking? Because I'm unaware.
We are here for your questions. I've introduced the staff that are here and available for any questions or rebuttal testimony.
Right. Well, I see three who I know.
Excuse me?
I see three of your staff I actually know.
Indeed.
I live in Chico, Butte County. Yep. I assume you know that.
I do, Madam President.
Okay. We'll proceed. We were asking questions of our staff because they are our staff. So then we'll go forward. So I don't have any other state parks folks that are going to come forward to the podium. Then I will call upon Mr. John Knock. You might want to sit down, Mr. Negrete. Maybe the front row.
Well, good morning. My name is John Knock. Thank you, Madam President, members of the board. I'm here today as a private landowner adjacent to this property. Today, I also speak for Larry Mendonça. He's very ill. He could have attended your meetings had this been a hearing in November or December, but beginning in January, he became very ill, and he's too ill even to participate remotely. And I just want to let you know that he's quite concerned about this, but not capable of engaging this process at this time. First, I want to thank you. There's actually, I want to point out that there is actually one thing today that I would like to join the state parks. I think we could all agree on that we would like to get a resolution to this issue today. I know that State Parks has been involved for years on this, and so have we. It's really quite a mess that was recognized in 2011 when State Parks was encouraged to withdraw their application, encouraged to work with the neighbors and the local maintaining agency to come back with a better project. I don't even know how we ended up all the way to 2024. It's not a delay that I could have created. Yet I keep getting drawn back into this vortex that cannot be ended or controlled. So today I do ask, and I will join with state parks and ask for a determination and a resolution on this permit, because that somehow this needs to be finalized. Of course, my request is for a denial of the permit. I need to set the table. I need to tell you how I entered this project. Part of what was determined to be part of the problem in 2011 is the adjoining property to the permit property of the Singh property. I will be referring to that as the Peterson unit because that was the operating name of for planning purposes. The Peterson unit never received your permission for restoration. In the application, they referred to that as a restored property, but they never brought forward to you any application and you never approved anything in regards to it. It was an abandoned agricultural field which has grown things both native and non-native, they did their own negative declaration process. Now, I attempted to engage that negative declaration process specifically about flooding concerns, to which I was told at the end of their process that they never received my letter when I showed them proof that they had signed for it on a certified receipt. The local representative for which I was referred to said they didn't care, and they excused their own failure and went forward with their determination of their own negative declaration process. For me, that sets the table to deal with the people who say they are engaged at the table. Now, following that process, there's more details, but I'm trying to summarize, and I'll answer more questions if you want. Following that process, at the beginning of the Singh process, they had a local meeting called by the same local representative of state parks that I ended up dealing with, that told me they weren't going to deal with me on the negative declaration process. This was I call it the obligatory meeting with neighbors. I didn't get invited to it. Personally, I think that's a failure of process. I don't know that it means that we can't do this today, but, sets the table. But more shocking, and I wish Larry Mendonça was here to tell you specifically what he was told at that meeting. Someone wearing the uniform of state parks actually told Mr. Mendonça and his nephew Justin that state parks wasn't going to do, I'm sorry to say it, an effing thing for the neighbors. Can you imagine hearing that at the beginning of this process by a representative wearing the uniform of the agency seeking now your approval? This sets the table for how we entered this process. Abbreviating this all the way to 2011, this was considered to be quite a conundrum between the proposed Singh project and the overgrown mess that is the Peterson unit. And the resolution that was sought at the time was to ask state parks to withdraw their application and work with the local maintaining agency and the neighbors and come back with a better project. And that was I mean, state parks has said it, I'll say it too. That was a long process, and it was engaged actively both by the neighbors and by the county. We had the county CEO and the county public works director attending all of our meetings, along with Mr. Mendonça and myself and representative of state parks. Those were hard meetings. We were very direct with one another, and they continued. I was amused by by what was written in this application. They said that at a certain point, and I think in 2016 or 2017, communications ceased. Well, they were calling the meetings. So when they say communications ceased, that means they stopped calling meetings. The people that you were just told were interested in staying at the table. It wasn't the local landowners who said we had resolved these issues. The whole presentation here says, you know, look at us. We've agreed to all of these items on that they were talking about. But it was they that withdrew, and then they submitted a letter, a 2016 letter to the county, which is part of this application, which basically summed up what they thought were the responses to community concerns, and that they were moving on. Now I'd like to go through a few of those. The neighbors did ask for a 300-foot setback, a grassland setback from Mr. Mendonca's property to the beginning of planting of habitat. This is consistent with county rules, a 300-foot setback between development and agricultural lands to avoid harmful to agriculture interaction. You heard a determination by a state parks official that there's no loss to farming operations. He offers no assurance. This is the county standard is 300 feet. It wasn't developed for this process. And this land is land in an area that the county had planned for agriculture, and it had no say in the state acquiring. So all of our request is follow the rules of development. But, and they want credit for giving another 100 feet. We continue to ask for 300 feet. We asked for an annual maintenance agreement. Annual maintenance. Our annual maintenance that we requested included silt removal, because this is something forever. And if you want to understand what happens in our floodplain, I wish your county staff would have visited the site, because you could see what happens in unmaintained riparian habitat in our area. The Peterson unit, what they call the Big Chico Creek Access Unit, is becoming silted, and it's because of the roughness that occurs in the flood area. It slows the water that's full of silt. The silt becomes deposited, permanently raising the elevation of what was the lowest area of the floodplain. That area used to carry more water. The Peterson unit, the Big Chico Creek Access Unit, used to carry the most water. It was the first water. It was the fastest water. But sort of like hair in the bottom of your shower drain, it's slowing down and it's building up. And to the extent it builds up, it diverts. And it diverts where people are trying to continue to farm. And the locals are objecting, the people who want to continue farming. We don't want that. They offered annual mowing. We want elevations taken, and we want annual silt removal. Now there is a mystery on the eucalyptus trees. In fact, I was interested to hear your staff person read my concern on the comments, because I thought I heard him say, in my comments, I said, don't take the eucalyptus trees out. But in this report, there's eucalyptus trees planted along River Road, and they were planted by a farmer. I talked to Mr. Mendonca last night. He's concerned about the removal of the eucalyptus trees too. And the concern is, if you take the trees out, you're going to undermine the road. And State Parks points out in their application that the road is washed out, that there's a lot of danger in that area. And if you visited the site, you'd know that the road, I mean, there's the river, it's rip-wrapped, there's the road, and there's the eucalyptus trees. The road's not very wide. You take those big trees out, you can lose the road. They say in our list that the neighbors are asking. I can't remember if the county asked, and they're not in the room today. But I'm going to tell you that Mr. Mendonca and Mr. Knock are telling you, do not remove the eucalyptus trees. We want the road. They present about the no trespass barrier. And it's true, the neighbors asked for a no trespass barrier. but not where it is and not what they proposed. I don't know. I had never seen, they showed you pictures of what they put in at another location 2 miles away. I had never seen that in all of our meetings. And in fact, their 2016 letter refers to what the actual design that we had asked for. We asked for a cable, not the vehicle barrier that they proposed. We asked for a cable because we're worried about the obstruction in the floodplain and what's going to be attracted and built up on, because there's a lot of flow and a lot of debris in the water. We don't want dams created. And also, there's a big issue about where it is. The neighbors wanted, what the neighbors asked for was a 300-foot setback, and then that ditch, which I have yet to get to, and then to put that barrier along the ditch. So in order for, the neighbors were concerned about the trespassers being the people on the trail from state parks, to keep the people from state parks on state parks, and to give a barrier, the ditch, and 300 feet before you get to ag. The neighbors weren't asking for a vehicle barrier along the property line. That's not, and that's how it was presented. That's not where we were at. And the final thing I need to get, it refers to a 5-year maintenance agreement. What we wanted is just maintenance, not just for 5 years. This place needs to be maintained. It can't become like the Peterson unit, like the Big Chico Creek access unit. We can't have, this is at the bottom of a huge drainage of our community. Almost all of the drainage that's coming out of the city of Chico is going through that area, either through, from Lindo Channel and Big Chico Creek down Big Chico Creek at that point, or Kusel Slough, the Mud Creek complex. It's a huge drainage, and this is the bottom of it. You can't plug it up, and if you do, you're just going to be redirecting the flows to other folks. So we can't, they talk about a 5-year agreement. There needs to be an enforceable, as long as it's state parks, as long as it's in this land use, it needs to be maintained. The next thing, and I have to ask because, you know, the first we knew that this was coming up is we got the minimal statutory minimum notice in November that this was up for a hearing. We got like a 7-day notice, and that staff was recommending approval of this project. I'd like to ask if it's okay, if any member of staff would like to, I could answer a question. If I can't ask that,
You can ask me.
can I ask you if any member of your staff contacted any landowner or the county prior to the approval, their recommendation of approving this project?
I think that you saw in the PowerPoint presented that there was a meeting with the county and the representatives they brought and our staff.
With the county prior to the recommendation?
No, but I'm going to ask you to.
Doesn't
give
matter.
me 4 more minutes.
Okay. I had no contact with them. They could not have known, and there's nothing in this proposal that says why we asked for that ditch. There's a ditch. I mean, it's kind of funny for me if you approved this project and you based it partially on their the justification for not having a ditch, that it would be a substantial budget increase and require consultation with additional regulatory agencies and be financially infeasible. I can just imagine how many people would like to use that as the new rule, why they shouldn't have to do things that are appropriate to do. What we were told in our 5-year process is everything we need to accomplish is in the Sing unit, because the Peterson unit is pretty much off limits, except that we'll talk to you about non-native Himalayan blackberry removal and almond trees that should have been removed years ago. That flow-through meadow, that used to be a swale. That used to be a swale that drained a long swale in the community. Now you have standing water on the Mendoza properties that cannot exit when floodwaters recede. The state parks in their negative declaration process approved their own boat launch and parking lot area in what was the terminus of that swale. That's why it they saw that drain, and they said, oh, we can launch kayaks out of that, and they built up a parking lot in front of it so people can access it. Made sense for state parks. Meanwhile, upstream, water is trapped, and that impairs our agriculture in the neighborhood. And this ditch, which is unexplained why we were asking for it, this ditch was a way to remove the water. Well, it was only in preparation for this meeting that I realized that the people who, stand up in favor of habitat and tell you that, that those are things that you should be worried about. Well, how about fish stranding in that water? I mean, the ditch would have taken care of the fish stranding. Oh, it would have been very expensive. We would have been okay if they just opened up the regular old swale like it used to be, but they've changed the land use in our community. Real quick, I need to get into the errors report. It was mentioned earlier, I had a problem with the Manning coefficients of roughness. They give you on page 6 of the errors report, which is page 47 of this packet, that their values, and by choosing your values, you can choose the outcome. They give a orchard tree in a 100-year flood event a value of 0.15 and a riparian forestry of 1.6. Well, if you want to, I mean, basically what they're saying is a tree is a tree is a tree, but that's not true. If you would look upon that orchard, you'd see that the trees are tall with maintained trunks and a high canopy to allow for orchard maintenance. And you have to maintain the orchard floor for harvesting. It's a clear path, a much less obstructed path. But you look upon a riparian forest, the Peterson unit right next door, the Big Chico Creek access, you can't see through it. There's all sorts of roughness. The floor isn't maintained, branches at all sorts of elevations. And yet this report says pretty much a tree is a tree is a tree. And they justify this report by saying, well, we keep using the errors report and over and over and over again. I asked you to look upon this report and consider the difference between an orchard tree. And if you want them to be treated the same, then require these riparian trees to be, and the floors to be maintained like the orchard was.
Are you wrapping up?
I'm wrapping up. The last thing I have to provide is the Board of Supervisors gave a response to Mr. Arachia's July 13th, 2027 letter. It's a four paragraph letter. I have 5 copies I could provide to you. You probably don't want me to take any more time. But it basically, I'm going to read one sentence. Therefore, the Butte County Board of Super, this is a letter dated October 14th, 2027. For the reasons stated on the first page. Therefore, the Board of Supervisors, acting as a local maintaining agency for this area, continues its longstanding opposition to proposed riparian habitat restoration on the Sing unit of Bidwell, Sacramento River State Parks. I've got 5 copies for your review.
You can place them right there. I think it's part of the record. And it was stated by staff that the county as local maintaining agency does not endorse this.
There was no mention that the report included Mr. Arachia's 2016 letter, but there was not an inclusion of the county's response to their letter. So with that, I'll conclude. Thank you.
Okay. Jared Geiser, still want to talk?
Sure do. Came all the way from Chico for this, so thank you for the opportunity to speak to you
Good
all
morning.
today. Happy to be here. My name is Jared Geiser. I'm the executive director of the Alta-Cal Audubon Society. And our mission is to promote the awareness, appreciation, and protection of native birds and their habitats through education, research, and environmental activities. And this project is of particular interest to us for many reasons. Most critically, because the riparian habitat that exists in the Sacramento Valley and that corridor is really minuscule to what its historic habitat used to be. And as a result of the habitat loss that we've seen over the last couple centuries, we've seen biodiversity decline. As we all know, the state of California has this 30 by 30 initiative where we're trying to protect and restore biodiversity, expand access to nature, and mitigate and build resilience to climate change. Riparian restoration, checking all of those boxes, especially in a project like this with state parks to allow that recreation. You know, there's a whole lot of benefits for this to make sure we're falling in line and implementing state priorities, as well as protecting our communities and restoring the habitat for endangered species such as the yellow-billed cuckoo, which lives in this area, the riparian corridor of the Sacramento River, but is endangered as a result of the lack of riparian habitat in California now. And so the restoration of riparian habitat is critical to make sure the species does not go extinct, and ultimately to help the species recover and help biodiversity become enhanced and mitigate climate change, by restoring this habitat. And so this project is vital to reestablish a native riparian forest in an unimpeded floodplain, improving ecosystem function, reducing water demand, providing increased natural habitat for the cuckoo, as I mentioned, as well as for a wide variety of other native birds and other wildlife. Also removing non-native invasive species. That's really important too. As those species spread, they'll take up more habitat that the native plants are then unable to occupy, furtherly negatively impacting the native wildlife we have. Also providing additional public safety and restoring a natural floodplain. So there's a whole lot of benefits of this project. And so we'd like to see the restoration of this project to help the bird populations and help the ecosystem and really help the earth here and help California meet our objectives. And so by replacing the monoculture walnut grove with native trees, shrubs, and grasses, we can see habitat increase really quickly, actually. There's a restoration project a little bit smaller than this one, but not far, just down River Road, a little bit north of this site. The Brayton Restoration Area and kind of near Pine Creek access, right there down from where Scotty's Landing is. Alta-Cal Audubon has been leading bird walks here for many, many years. And since the time it's been restored, we've seen increases in bird diversity, increase in bird numbers using this property. And so the location of this newly proposed restoration area on the Singh property will add native riparian habitat to the habitat corridor along the Sacramento River, increasing connectivity. And the project has been specifically designed to be compatible with the hydrologic conditions attributed to this location near the confluence of the Sac River, Big Chico Creek, and Mud Creek. And includes elements such as wide vegetation spacing, plantings that limit understory vegetation, removal of historic berms, and the creation of a flow-through meadow, all of which were informed through robust stakeholder engagement, particularly to address the concerns of neighboring landowners. And so Alta-Cal Audubon respectfully requests that the board accept staff recommendations to approve this permit and enable this critical restoration project to get going. And in light of the climate and biodiversity crisis, we need riparian restoration projects like this one to begin without delay. I visited the site a few weeks ago. I was walking through the Big Chico Creek day use area where Valley Oak woodland kind of dominates, and there's big open meadows. And it is a wonderful, wonderful place for the birds, as well as for the community. There's some nice trails through there, and a whole lot of kingfishers on the creek there, a Big Chico Creek, kind of a kind of a slough going through there. And I will say there's a noticeable difference in the bird singing as you get to the edge of the Big Chico Creek day use area and you get to the edge of this Sing property, the site in question. There's not as much bird singing in the 40 acres of the one tree of the walnut grove that is planned to be restored. There's a lot more bird activity in the state park land adjacent Big Chico Creek day use area. And so habitat restoration is really important to address all of these issues that I've been discussing and that California is putting a lot of energy and effort into addressing. So I thank you so much for the opportunity to comment. And yeah, I hope we can get this project going to restore this habitat. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't have any other cards, so is there anyone else that wishes to offer comments to the board before I turn it over to board discussion? And I'm sorry, what?
Austin Berryman.
Austin Berryman? Mr. Berryman, you have your hand up to make a comment?
Hi, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. If you'd state who you are, that would be helpful.
Yeah, my name is Austin Berryman, and I'm a project coordinator for River Partners. River Partners is a nonprofit organization that focuses on repair and restoration across California and has worked closely with California state parks for well over 20 years. Speaking on behalf of River Partners, we firmly support and believe state parks, excuse me, have done their due diligence in implementing the SING project and knows that it fits well within their mission and purpose. We hope the board approves this project moving forward, and I want to thank you for your time in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you for your brevity. Any other hands up there online? Okay. Last call before I turn it over to board discussion. Okay. Board members, do you have any questions that could or should be answered by staff or presenters? Okay. Secretary Johnson, your hand's up. Good morning.
Yes, I don't have a question. I'm happy to start the board discussion if you're ready for that, but if other board members have questions first, please go ahead.
Any other questions? We have some hands up here. So if you have a question or a comment, I'm not going to ask for a motion just yet. Just wanted to be honest with you. But if you have some comments on this, you're on. It looks like you're sitting back. So I was going to call on Member Bosler. Is that okay? Member Bosler.
So I just have a question about ongoing inspection and maintenance.
Can you hold your mic up?
Sorry, I could, if someone from the board staff could clarify what, if anything, is going to be routinely inspected, like we do for many other parts of the state plan of flood control, and I just need some clarification on that.
Hi, Member Bosley. I'm Humberto Negrete with the board staff again. There will be conditions in the issued permit that will reference maintenance and operations, stuff like that. Also, the Army Corps of Engineers letter of permission has conditions as well that need to be adhered to. So it'll be up to the finalized permit that will be routed on the final conditions. But there will be something in the lines of that it'll need to be kept in working operational condition in order for the permit to be valid.
Yeah, Vice President Vines.
Just to follow up. Just to follow up on your question. Can you hear it? Yeah.
A little green close to your face.
Question for you is and I might be wrong on this, I don't know, but on the Peterson property we're hearing about and how that's sort of maintained or not maintained from what we're hearing, does that have conditions similar to what would be these conditions?
As far as I know about that property, there was no encroachments constructed on there, that it was just purchased by the applicant and it was allowed to be overgrown. So I don't believe there's been anything authorized by the board on that property. So that we can't really enforce anything that we didn't authorize.
So, there we go. It's green. I'm ready.
You are.
Maybe I was just holding it down the whole time. Is that the Parks property, the Peterson property? It is. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay.
I would prefer that.
Matt Teague, right? Yes. You can assist in answering those questions on maintenance.
Good morning, Matt Teague, District Superintendent. Yeah, just to add clarification to that question. So we do own the applicant. As the applicant, we do own Peterson. I was involved in a previous position with that project, which included the boat ramp, the parking lot, and minor restoration. We did receive a rec board permit on that, predates Central Valley Flood Protection Board. And we also did a permit with the U.S. Army Corps for wetland delineations, and then also coordination with the county. Rec board at that time, DWR took over as the LMA on that project because there was no LMA, and the county basically denied involvement in that project.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I knew that. Did you want to? Oh, I'm sorry. Your hand was not above our staff person. Trish, last name now is?
Lad Shoot. I have two. You can choose if you like. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to listen to us. I know there's been a lot of talk about the Peterson / the Big Chico Creek Access Unit, which is the parcel to the south. And just to kind of clarify, this was not an abandoned orchard by state parks. It was a land acquired by state parks of which the orchard was abandoned, and restoration started happening naturally. So state parks coming in is doing quite a bit of maintenance on it in terms of removing invasives or treating the invasives. And I joined state parks 10.5 years ago. And my very first day, I acquired this project. And again, started meeting with the landowners and the county. And we did work up a draft agreement to maintain the Big Chico Creek unit, but was not endorsed by Butte County for a variety of reasons. However, for the last 9 years, State Parks has upheld that management. We have contracted annually with CAL FIRE, the California Conservation Corps, and district staff. So every single year after fire season, prior to flood season, the swale, of which we all talk about, or the flow-through meadow, which is a naturally occurring low area. It's not anything that was created. It was naturally occurring. We remove all woody debris out of there. We remove all vine materials out of it, and we mow down the grasses every single year. And then after we've done that, we plant sedges. If you're familiar with sedges, it's a low-growing herbaceous plant that is really great for flood conveyance. And so we have done a great restoration on the beginning part of it, and we're continuing to work our way back. We do treat invasives throughout the entire site, which is Himalayan blackberry. It's probably our main one, perennial pepperweed, fig, a couple eucalyptus here and there. And we had the honor this year of hosting a field event with the California Invasive Plant Council Symposium, which is held annually statewide. We had statewide land managers come to the Big Chico Creek unit just to see our management efforts and what we have done. And it was met with great success and applause to state parks. Management is always an ongoing effort of which we are committed to. And we have now got more investment from statewide in how we treat this area. So I just wanted to let that known that it's not neglected nor abandoned by state parks. But it's a valuable riparian habitat, which does have understory, which is important to a lot of these wildlife and for flood control. Yes.
Yes. You may.
Thank you for that. It was helpful. The it was said earlier, since I have you here and you mentioned the parking lot and the access spot, are you noticing a silt buildup where it was described as, now water's further up and just sitting there, or do you do silt? It seems like silt is an issue that, like, could you guys just say, look, we'll do it, or can you explore that a little bit?
Well, sedimentation and deposition is a natural process in floodplains, of which we are in a floodplain that floods typically every 2 years. So when we did talk with siltation removal with the landowners and the stakeholders, you know, they wanted grading down every single year. But when you're doing a restoration project and establishing native plants to outcompete the invasives, you don't do annual removal of that material. And that was the reason when we discussed with our stakeholders why we weren't in favor of that, is because it would basically negate our habitat restoration. In terms of seeing it, I mean, very minor bits here and there along the trail in the open areas, but I have waited out there in my waders during flood events to watch this flow through meadow through the Big Chico Creek unit. And it is moving. It's moving at what you expect on that level, which is only a couple feet deep when it floods. So it is conveying and it is moving. And I have noticed properties to the north, when water is held on their property, it's a very northern portion of the property, which is not adjacent to the seeing unit. So it's the other end of the property that's holding water, and which typically gathers water prior to going through the seeing in the Big Chico Creek unit. Does that answer your question?
It does. That was perfect. Just a quick question, then last one. I'll be quiet for a while.
Ask away.
I think I hit my quota for a year, trust me. That little spot you talked about, like up north, is that an ag production piece?
Yes,
Or it
and
is?
it's a dry row crop.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
It's the Mendonça, please. It's always been field crop.
Yeah, and I did have on our presentation a few more maps and pictures. If you guys did want to see a little bit more of the site, I'm more than willing to walk you through that. And we have, you know, I know there was a lot brought up in comments. So if we want to address any of those, we would love to, as Mr. Mendonca said, come to a resolution today and have all parties heard. So if you do like to go a little bit further on some of the comments brought up and the negotiations and how Parks did submit this application, I would love to do that.
I'm unaware that state parks ever removed any of the almond trees on what is, I call the Peterson unit.
Well, when State Parks first acquired it, all almond trees, that was the first act that State Parks did, was to kill the almond trees in place. So they were not physically removed, but they were prevented from harboring pests, agricultural pests. That was the first thing State Parks did throughout the entire unit. We have little minor bits here and there of the rootstock coming in, which we treat annually. However, during my time in the discussion with the stakeholders, they did not like seeing the standing dead relics of the almond trees. And so working in conjunction with Butte County brought in their sheriff crew, and we removed 85 of those trees from within the viewshed of the trail. So while there's a few off the trail, we did remove 85 of those almond trees, of the already dead almond trees. So we did.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
I don't, oh, one more. No, Vice President.
I lied.
Thinking,
Sorry.
No, please.
So it's, I just want to make sure I'm capturing this right. So there was something said about you know, on the newer parcel, it would be a 5-year agreement and it should go on forever. And you didn't have an agreement on the last one, but you're still doing it.
Yes.
So can you just let us know? I mean, it seems to me like you would probably do the same thing, but I'd like to hear what the process is for that. So maybe, because a few of us may have heard, okay, 5 years and then we're out of here.
Yeah.
So maybe you could talk about that.
And Mr. Mendonca was correct. In the letter, they didn't ask for a 5-year one, nor did we respond to a 5-year one. So I'm not really sure where the 5 years coming from. That might have been the Big Chico Creek one we had tried initially. So we did with the application submit an annual maintenance plan, of which we agreed to mow between the rows, remove all debris that was along the northern barrier prior to flood season. And to keep that swale continuously open through the Big Chico Creek unit, of which we're already doing on the lower end, which again is removing down woody debris and keeping woody material from establishing within the swale. So yeah, we have committed to that, and we have been doing it in the lower unit for 9 years. Yeah, as part of our normal, now even new staff coming in, we record it, and that's an annual fall activity that we do along with spring and fall treatments of invasives. So it's part of our normal repertoire now. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
I'm glad to
other
come back
questions
up
from
if
the
you
board?
decide you do have more questions.
Yeah, I don't see them. I have a viewpoint, and I don't think you can answer it. And I'm not sure that the board can answer it either. I'm acutely aware of this property. Grew up in Chico. This is where we went to take out when we entered on our tubes up by Hamilton City. At that time, the river was much farther to the west than it is now. And as the intensity of storms occurred over the years, erosion toward the east and taking what was both riparian land along the river bank and agricultural land and the county road eroded, disappeared. There's a pole in the middle of the river. You can see that was where agriculture was at some point. I don't know why they left the pole, but it's there. And as the area was and still is called the washout because of the erosion that does occur. This is a very dynamic part of the river. Historically, it meandered a great deal. If you see the historical photos that are in the DWR archives that are pretty amazing, and it was actually before I was born. Now, I served on the Board of Supervisors. You all know that. I also was part of the 28-member committee that developed the Sacramento River Fisheries and Restoration Habitat Plan in 1989. Which still is incredibly useful, except for the comments on the price of land to be purchased for restoration. But that plan and every other plan that gets identified, including the conservation strategy and the Central Valley Flood Protection Plan, and I am an unqualified supporter of enacting the conservation strategy and multi-benefit plans. But I don't see that this isolated piece of property is going to accomplish what needs to be done. Now, can I order that instead of you doing this isolated piece of property, you work with others to restore what was a fluvial floodplain before John Bidwell and the Moffats and Tom and all the rest of them came and changed this all to agriculture, actually made it the Chico Landing because the river was a conveyance of goods before railroads and roads. I don't think that I can do that, but if there's not the same kind of effort on the property that you do own, and I get that you took an orchard that Mr. Peterson didn't want anymore because of the trash that was accumulated, and it took a while for an environmental group to garner the money to buy that and turn it over to you, and that's the point that some of this extraordinary work that you're doing on what's called the same property needed to be done. So there was a lot of neglect over the years. The purchase of that property created a lot of consternation among agriculture because they thought, oh gosh, the state's coming in, they're going to destroy agriculture all along the river. And I was one who went to boards of supervisors, including my own, to say, this is what we need to do along the corridor. And my board did support that purchase, but not for it to sit there. And I know that you all, when you go, have a very different view of what I do when I go there. And I see an invasive jungle. And I know you've got money just for seeing and not money for that, and I get it, and I know you're not getting any more money out of it, but I just think this piecemeal one-off is not something that I can support. The history of this is pretty lengthy, and though I was not anywhere that I was in a decision-making capacity, I was aware because my dad was doing appraisal work that the Army Corps of Engineers came to Chico in the early 60s. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention because I was in kindergarten, second grade, third grade, at any rate. And they analyzed and created the Army Corps of Engineers. It's called the City of Chico Flood Protection Plan. And it incorporates the flows in Big Chico Creek. When they get too high, they go to what was called the Edgar, or anyway, it's Lindo Channel now. And then when that gets to it, it goes to Sycamore, then it goes to Mud Creek, and then it all comes back to the confluence of Big Chico Creek and Mud Creek, crossing what was the fluvial plain of this. And when that was created, there was no orchards there. And it did have a slope, but nobody took care of it. And I really tried to find that book. I asked the court and they said, well, we think it's somewhere in the archives. This is pre-internet, so somebody's got a paper copy of it somewhere, and it could be, Member Countryman has it. Because you know, sorry to say, used to work for the Army Corps of Engineers. And that was kind of like the blueprint for how this floodwater from all of Chico ends up here. It's not just Mud Creek, it's all of Chico that goes there. And I've seen where it stops. When it's flooding, it ends up at the confluence of Big Chico Creek and the river. I mean, I go there. It's like, how much is it flooding now? You know, I very carefully go past it. You can't go here because it's flooding. And I don't drive my car there. I do it. And so I see that. And then it recedes and the water does sit because it no longer has that floodplain terrain to it to go there. And I think that it does. I think all of us, and I will take the avoidance that my Board of Supervisors, when I sat on that, did nothing either other than recreate the road when it disappeared and kept moving it forward. I was somewhat amused, but also irritated at some place in there that the park said, and the county took part of our land. Well, the River Road's pretty important, but other than Highway 32 that goes through the urban area of Chico where the bulk of the housing for Chico State is, River Road is the road for transport of goods, services, and recreation. And when it disappears, there's not any way to get from here to there if you don't have a helicopter, or you want to go through that horrible congestion of the city of Chico. So I can't support this because I look at this photo and I see what you want to do and I think it's great, but I see what you haven't done. It needs to be done. So I'm not sure what the board's going to do, but I think you know what my vote's going to be. So there it is. Member Grego?
Thank you. I want to first of all thank our staff for the report and the folks that came to the podium to talk about this project. You know, I'm going to reflect back on my county supervisor years in Yuba County, and I want to say that there's no peace in this neighborhood right now. And there really should be, because if you want a great project, you have to have those supporters, not just from the Aviance Society or the river folks, but from your neighbors. And so, you know, I guess my question is this, is there a way to get back together at the table and try to find some medium of compromise?
Good question.
It's,
before you go on, I want to say this. We have our member Johnson is online, and he's got an obligation today, and I understand that because we moved this vote. So he either wants a vote by 11:30, and he actually needs to leave, or a break, and we return at 12:15 so we can continue the conversation. So I'm getting the sense that, sorry you all, but I'm going to tell you about this with the board. But if we can't conclude all this in the next 7-8 minutes to bring it to a vote, then we should honor his request and take the break. So,
is it my turn?
Mr. Countryman,
Well, it's Brian's turn, I think.
it's Brian's turn. Okay, Brian, your turn.
Thank you. Yeah, I am listening to all of this. Can you hear me okay? My
Yes.
internet has been great. Good. So I want to thank the staff for the really thorough presentation and state parks, and President Dolan for your context. I'll be voting for this. I'll be happy to make the motion to do it. I want to explain a little bit my rationale for it, which is really simple, that the proposal meets all of our standards and does not adversely affect any resources within our jurisdiction. I'll read a couple of sentences that I think dictate our answer from page 12 and 13 of the report. The board's action is limited to approving an encroachment permit. The board's jurisdiction is limited to imposing conditions to mitigate or avoid impacts to the environment under its authority, specifically the adopted plan of flood control. Next page, the project will not adversely affect the adopted plan of flood control, therefore no conditions or mitigation measures within the board's jurisdiction are required. And I honestly believe that answers our question at this point. I know it does for me. And I almost feel like it doesn't matter that much what I think of the project. Since I have the microphone, I think it's a good project. It advances the state, our flood plan and a bunch of other plans. Yeah, it could be, I'm sure it could be better. I'm sure there could be more of them. There could be a more comprehensive solution. I'm sure that's true. It's often true. I also believe that it's a better project for the back and forth with the county and the neighbors, and I want to recognize them for showing up and advocating their interests. I want to recognize state parks for taking as much as they can. And to Board Member Grego's comment, I do hope that after we approve it, they can continue to try to work on these things, because you know there's not a great beginning or end to any of this, and it's an ongoing concern. So with that, I'll move that we approve the permit and take the other actions as recommended in item 9A. And I know that's not I don't mean to do that as the end of the discussion. We should talk about it as much as we need to. Thank you.
Understood. Okay, so there is a motion to approve the actions recommended by staff. I don't know whether to ask for a second or ask Mr. Countryman to talk.
What?
Okay, Mr. Countryman, you're up. We're going to leave that open.
I didn't hear any.
Mr. Countryman.
Okay. I find this very disturbing, the way this discussion is going. Our job is to assure that the proposed project or encroachment does not impact flood control function of the system. Clearly, this project does not do that. All the neighbors may not be happy, but that's not a requirement of what we're supposed to be doing here, that assure that every neighbor is happy. The project meets our goals of environmental enhancement, and it does not impact the project flood capacities in any way. I don't see any basis for not approving this permit. So I will definitely be supporting it when we have the vote.
Are you therefore seconding the motion to approve?
Surely.
All right. So there is a motion before us. My comment to my two esteemed colleagues who I respect more than I can say, and I've known Joe for decades, and I'm thrilled that you're all here on the board. But when you say it does not affect the state plan flood control, I contend that it does impact the flood control plan for the community of Chico that relies on the flow through here to the confluence of Big Chico Creek and the river, which cannot be physically accommodated because of the condition of what's called the Peterson unit. And I've read all this, and I know the state parks people, know the landowners. I think some of their concerns about the impact of agriculture are not those that I agree, and I probably destroyed a relationship with two of them by saying that forward, but that's the way it goes. And I'm just, I'm worried that without denying or tabling, this kind of argument is going to go on for another 2 decades. So I do think it impacts the city of Chico's flood plan. Any other comments from the board before we call for a vote? Member Bosler, Vice President.
I just want to thank everyone for the discussion here today. I have a lot of feelings that go back, not specific to this project, but just specific to some systemic issues that I think need to be brought, up to the surface and recognized. The first of all is, and this is a message to the NGO community for those of you that are listening, so much focus on raising money to purchase property and hardly any focus on the maintenance and restoration dollars that are needed to do that. And that's just a huge problem. We need to keep working together collectively. I don't mean to isolate you, but I do think you need to acknowledge and you need to be part of the solution. I'm sure that the state parks people who are very professional here today, are not thrilled with the time it took to do some of the restoration things that they've been able to do on the Peterson property. And I completely understand the community's frustration when you see a land that's owned by the state and nothing happening. I completely get all of those positions. So I would just say, and there's always, a limited amount of government money everywhere, at the state too. But I do think there has been so much focus from the environmental community, the NGO community on purchase. State can own all the land. And then there's like no follow through on how that's going to be maintained or even restored. And so that's a huge, huge problem. And we need to all collectively work on that. I am going to support the project. I align my comments like with Mr. Countryman here in terms of our technical role. But I do, have a lot of empathy for all involved. I also am just appalled at the state of the relationship between state parks, the county, members of the community. I think we all at the state level, and I put myself, as a former state employee, like and a current board member here, we do need to do a lot more listening to local communities, a lot more listening to local landowners that have been on these properties for decades. They know and understand us. I'm a farmer's daughter, so like they know and understand their property very well, and there's lots of things that we can learn from them, in addition to looking at our very technical hydrological models, et cetera. So I just think that I encourage all state employees, all state parks employees, that are working in communities, to be just spending more time, not less, with your community. I think I align my comments with Mary Jane just about this is not a successful project because we don't have common understanding about why it matters. And I think that we can get there. I don't think this is it's not my parents who are in agriculture, often say, when did it become us against them? Like, agriculture has very symbiotic relationships with ecosystems, and like we need to get back to where we can have those conversations and be positive and work on projects that are positive.
Thank you. Did you still want to say something? Okay.
Mary Jane, do you want to finish where you were?
Okay. Griego, Valines.
Thank you.
See what
I
we can do about-
appreciate that.
We got
Let me pick up
9
where I
minutes.
left off there. And I think I left off with, there's no peace in the neighborhood, okay? And,
Yeah.
and I really believe that, this board, we sit here not only to, review those permits and encroachments and such, but also to give the public a venue to come and talk to us about the projects. And so, if it was just simply about flood control, our staff could make those decisions better than maybe we could. But we're here because we're here to listen to the public. And so my comments in regards to this is that I don't want to kick this issue, kick the can down the road. We're here to make decisions. But in this case, I feel like there just hasn't been the right element of communication to try to resolve some of the issues that the neighbors have. And, I think, moving forward with this, the way it is recommended is maybe a little short-sighted. And I think that maybe if there was some conditions on this motion about sitting down and working with the neighborhood, I could support that. But I can't just simply support this action with the way it's been written. And I believe that there is motivation on both sides to sit down and resolve this. Wish that would happen. And so I'm going to leave it there. And now you know how I feel about this.
Mr. Valines?
Thank you. Your comments were great. I appreciate that. And I was just going to say for Joe and for Brian, but for Joe, when you were mentioning, in terms of our roles, I agree with everything you said. I should just look at you, Joe. Where are you? Well, but we are a repository for information. And we're, like we've stressed many a time on our 5-year plans, we say that we all the time talk about how we are a dialogue, how we pull people together. So I'm in the same spot, I feel. And of course, when I say this, you guys are sitting there, you've been working on this for, seems like 300 years. I get it. The landowner feels like it's been 300 years. So it's like, I'm not helping. But what I'm expressing is, it doesn't seem like we're that far apart. But yet I realize it's probably a huge gulf that might be too big to bridge. So the way I was going to say it was something of the nature that again, I feel bad for parks because here I am saying, let's do a delay. What I would like to see is something like, you give it 60 days and it comes back. Like, I want to put a time on it and not be done for myself. And really, I'm talking about the dialogue. I'm willing to attend a meeting if we're allowed to do that. But I feel like some things are just so, one is, so clear, one is so unclear that it can't be that way. And yet what seems like the big differences aren't so huge. So I would just like to see a little more dialogue. And I guess I would say the landowners is that, and I know you've been, you've been, I'm trying to find you in the audience. There you are. I know you've been doing your dialogue and you say that too. I've been a part of a lot of community meetings over the years. And sometimes the dialogue is more like, it's the body language of this, and we're not going to talk to each other, and who are you, and don't come in my land. I'm not saying that's you. What I'm saying is that doesn't create a robust environment for getting to a solution. So I think because of what we've created and what we take a lot of pride in and what we take credit for, we should be consistent, is creating this dialogue that maybe I just missed the whole fact. I mean, I was watching how many times it's been moved, and I realized this has been happening a lot more than I realized because it's not, it's not my area. But I would still like to see some kind of forced dialogue or whatever the condition is, so that we can at least I can feel better about saying, look, that thing was given 60 days. There's no resolution on it. We got to move. So that's kind of where I'm at. Maybe not today, but I would like to see something be done. I want to recognize both sides' frustration, but at some point we need to move forward as well. So let's not just push it off indefinitely.
Thank you for that. I thank all of you for that. So here's how we could proceed. We could have a vote on the motion that is before us, which is to approve the board's action. I can hear that there's going to be 2 no votes. Or there can be an amendment to this motion to table it for 60 days.
Through the chair. I agree with what board member Valines, Vice President Valines said. Sometimes when you put a little time limit on something, things actually occur. And I know through my experience with Three Rivers, when we've had these kind of conflicts, when there was a timeline, we sat down and resolved it. It may not have been perfect, but both parties would come to the board and say, we've resolved it. I would like to see that. So I'm willing to make
Request an amendment to the motion
Yes.
to hold it for 60 days.
well, I'd like to hold it to the August meeting because I won't be here for July, and I really would like to vote on this.
That's a pattern that we've been doing so far. Okay, is that your?
That's my motion, if I can get a second.
Okay, so we now have a submitted amendment to this motion to hold action until August meeting? Is that what you said? Okay, someone want to second that, or it dies? Mr. Valines, did you want to second that?
Yes.
Okay, seconded by Valines. Let's have a. Yeah. If the amendment doesn't pass, then we go to the corpus. So please call the roll for the amendment. Hold this for action until the August meeting.
Member Bosler,
Aye.
Member Countryman, Member Countryman,
Are you voting?
The vote is for
Hold
delay.
action until August.
Yeah, I vote no.
Member Griego,
Yes.
Secretary Johnson,
No.
Vice President Valines. Aye. President Dolan.
Aye. All right, that motion carries. So the motion to approve is held in abeyance until our August meeting. I think that the unspoken direction of that motion is, let's see what we can do. I'm there, so.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Should
Member
we
Grego.
direct staff to be?
To organize the meeting.
Yes, thank you. We need to make sure that this happens, and I'm serious about moving forward on this and getting some resolution. Pardon me? I agree.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, yeah.
Okay. President,
okay.
I need to step away for about a half hour, possibly a few more minutes. Thank you for the discussion, and I agree. If we're going to wait 2 months with the direction to staff to work, and I'll see you all in Wula.
All right, Miss, I'm going to give it to the executive officer to find the appropriate staff and organize the meeting. 2 of us have the liaison assignment for this area of the room.
We're not allowed to have 2, right?
What was that?
We can only have 2 people on a meeting.
Yeah, it's a limit of 2 board members. That's our subcommittee level. That's why we created these assignments, because if you have more than that, we have a meeting like this. So maybe a little truth telling. Okay. I'm ready for a break, board members. So I think just a big sigh. Have everybody come and step up and criticize me. That would be fine. We're going to take a 10-minute break. The board will reconvene. I apparently have a different clock than what I announced. So we're back. President Dolan, calling the meeting back to order. And just look here, some folks are still getting seated.
Thank you.
Do we still have Joe? Yep. Okay, we're back in session, Joe. I can see you for now. All right, we are at board item 9B as in board. And this is a report and presentation. Mr. Greg Harvey of the Flood System Improvement Branch is going to, you can read it. It's going to present this, and I'll stop talking because I'm losing my voice. Good morning still.
Oh, I was just going to ask that. So it is morning? Good morning, President Dolan, members of the board, Vice President Vlines. My name is Greg Harvey. I'm the branch manager of the Flood System Improvement Branch, and today I'm going to be given a work. How's that? So I'm going to be giving an overview of our staff activities report that we provide to the board monthly, and this month we're giving it verbally. So let's see. So there I am at the top, and then you have Selva Mohan. He's going to be giving the presentation for the Sacramento levee section, which he oversees. And he has Kashal and Israel and Karina in his section, and then Mr. Mike Zalazzo and Dustin Sanowski, senior engineers. All the folks you see there below me are the ones that keep the boat moving. They do all the hard work. So a little outline. I'm going to give an overview and just highlight a few of the federal projects and studies that we work on, specifically Dustin and Mike, and then our system improvements where the board issues encroachment permits for, and we get 408. We get letters of authorization from the federal government through their section 408, and they're in various stages right now. So I'll highlight a few of those. And then some of the other programs, our branch seems to do a lot of other work that don't fall into those boxes. So I'll show you some of that. And then I'll go over a few forecasted activities that we plan to bring before the board here in the next few months. And then Selva will go over the Sacramento levee section, including the governor's broadband initiative work and all the work he's doing in the Sacramento area. So some of the federal projects and studies, a few months ago, our branch issued some letters of intent to the federal government, to the Army Corps of Engineers, for our continued support of feasibility studies. And those included the Cache Creek Settling Basin, Merced County Streams, Tuolumne River, the San Joaquin Valley Watershed Study, and the Middle Creek Project. So here's a few of the federal projects and studies we're working on. One that I wanted to highlight is the Marysville Ring Levee project. And that's the federal ring levee that goes around the city of Marysville. And cutoff wall construction for phase 2B is currently underway.
Called ring levy,
Called Marysville Ring Levee, correct.
goes around the city.
And phase 3 just got completed. And staff's working with the Army Corps to update the O&M manual. And I have a few photos of some of the construction for that.
Do you know how many phases that there are? Because this has been going on since I've been on the board.
There's about 6.
Six. Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then
Making progress. I do know the railroad is an issue.
yeah, so the eastern part is where phase 3 is. I'll show you that one just got completed, which. So actually, I want to go over the Lower San Joaquin project first, just highlight a few things. There's phase 1, which is the California project, and phase 2, the Lathrop and Manteca feasibility study. So phase 1, there's going to be staffs working with the department and the Army Corps on this, and there's going to be a transfer of credits coming up. So there's some excess credits from the Sutter Basin California project, and those are going to be transferred to the Lower San Joaquin project. And we'll do an amendment to those PPAs, and that should be great. So here's the Marysville Ring Levee on the right hand side. There's Marysville, and the Ring Levee project goes around it. And the highlighted yellow dash, that's phase 3, which was just completed. And then on the northern part where Highway 70 goes up, that was phase 4B of the federal project. And Caltrans actually is currently they decided to widen Highway 70, and which is setting the levee back as well, which is going to deal with some seepage and stability issues, and I'll go over that. That's in the permit stage right now, so I just wanted to highlight that. This was a $22.5 million project, phase 3, and it started in 2020, and the final inspection report was done about a year ago. That's the levee. That's showing where phase 3 levee is. It also is a road. So I just wanted to show you a few photos of the cutoff wall construction. Those are long reach excavators that go down anywhere from 60 to 100 feet and install the slurry bentonite. And then some of the levee embankment reconstruction and access ramp as well.
These are not simple things.
Right. Large projects, large effort.
Very vulnerable community.
So some of the projects that the board issues permits for that are in various stages. These are the ones we have in early coordination and pre-application. So the Little Egbert project, this is below the Lookout Slough project in the Lower Yola Bypass. This is going to be part of the workshop next month, and the staff has met with the department and gone over some of the aspects of this. It's approximately 3,100 acres and would provide conveyance and improvement for habitat restoration, and it's down below the Lookout Slough project at the edge of Solano County, the terminus of the Yola Bypass. So these are all the projects that we have in permitting right now, permitting stages. So just wanted to highlight the climate resiliency project by the Three Rivers Levee Improvement Authority. And this project aims to improve the Feather River East levee by adding some cutoff walls at various locations, a few levee raise locations, and some new embankment, and some wind wave buffer zones. And right now, we have a borings or a geotechnical investigation in progress right now for helping the design of the cutoff wall. The Black Rascal, oh, yes, President Dole.
Let me just say that Member Johnson, Secretary Johnson has now been able to come back.
Oh, okay, thank you.
He had to leave right after that vote, but now he's back. Welcome back.
So the Black Rascal Creek project is in Merced County. Merced County is the applicant. This request came to us in the end of 2021, and it's for a detention basin. And Merced County is currently working with the Army Corps and developing some acquisition of land rights, and staff is reviewing comments from the Corps and dealing with some flowage easements. The Highway 70 expansion, Marysville Railroad Bridge Rehabilitation Project. This is the one I had mentioned. This is where Phase 4B of the Marysville Ring Levee project would have been, and Caltrans is widening Highway 70 a few lanes, and they're setting the levee back and addressing some seepage and stability concerns. And they're pretty far along. They're about 90% designed, and staff's been heavily involved in this. There's a lot of existing utilities that need to be relocated that staff's working with the Army Corps on, and we're dealing with those right now.
What about the cemetery?
Cemetery is to the east, correct?
It's on both sides. The Catholic side, everybody else on the other side.
It's gonna be fine.
They'll be fine.
This is where the first settlers were endured. It's a, yeah.
So some of the projects we have in construction, the Smith Canal Gate project, I have a photo of that. That was approved by this board in May of 2019, and it's getting close to completion. The Dad's Point and the golf course areas on the sides are getting, the tie-in areas are getting still construction, and the cellular flood wall work is ongoing. Yeah. And the Yola Bypass Salmonid Habitat Restoration and Fish Passage Project, that's a DWR is the applicant, and they are installing a fish passage facility on the Fremont Weir. And I have a few photos of the east and west tie-in, and that's moving along quite well. The Lookout Slough Tidal Habitat Restoration and Flood Improvement Project, that's going to be part of the tour next month, and that's active construction right now. The new setback levee is being constructed, or it might actually be finished, and the breach of the existing Shag Slough is about to happen, and also the Liberty Island bridge demolition is going to be happening shortly. Great Valley Grasslands Assurance Agreement. That's, I just wanted to highlight that. Last month, staff brought that before the board and updated that agreement, which was great. And yes, Board Member Valines.
Our Vice President wants to ask a question now.
Sorry, just going back, the bridge demolition?
Yes.
Who actually does that? I mean, we assume we contract out with somebody. It's not us, right? But what state department oversees that and contracts that out?
I believe it's the Department of Water Resources. They're the current permit holder, and they're
Okay, I didn't know it was them or the county. All right.
Yeah. Or is it Solano County? The bridge demolition, or Liberty Island Bridge. Yeah, the department. Yeah.
Thanks. I mean, I'm glad that that's happening.
Right. You still can't hear me? I don't know.
Or can go way down, you can.
Oh, there we go.
Not very
Okay.
much. Okay.
I'll try to stay closer. Thank you, President Dolan. So here's a photo of the Smith Canal gate. So those are all the cellular flood walls. And I believe the golf course connection is on the left and the Dad's Point's on the right. And then the northern part is the actual Smith Canal, and the southern area is the San Joaquin River. And just as you recall, this is in Stockton. So here are a few little quick photos of the Fremont Weir, the Yellow Bypass Salmonid Habitat Project. The left photo is the western tie-in, and the right photo is the eastern tie-in location. And I believe this project is slated to be completed at the end of this year. So a few projects that we have in closeout, post-construction, these are all in various phases, but staff is working with the applicant and the Army Corps on commenting on the project completion report and updating the operations and maintenance manuals for these. So some of the other programs.
What is the Mid-Valley area?
So the Mid-Valley Phase 3, sites 9 and 10 were just completed. There's also a permit right now that's going to be coming quickly for site 11. And that was for some levee repair work, some seepage berm installation on the Sacramento River, right? Sacramento River in Yolo County.
That's the Mid-Valley?
Yes. It's President Dolan, I believe you brought this name up before. the Mid-Valley, I don't recall why it was actually named Mid-Valley. Right. North of Sacramento, the area, but south of Red Bluff. So they titled it Mid-Valley.
Okay, so I live in the Mid-Valley. I'll stop.
I will if I can get the clicker to work.
That's what happens to me, the black screen of death on my computer.
All right. So some of the other programs that our branch works on, the adequate progress and the safety element review and some of the special projects. The adequate progress, the Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency and the San Joaquin Area Flood Control Agency submitted their annual progress reports towards their 200-year level protection to us. Safety element review, this is when a city, a county agency updates their general plan. They submit that to a whole variety of agencies, and we're one of them, and we make sure if it's in our jurisdiction that it complies with our regulations. And Contra Costa County, I had them memorized. Contra Costa County, the city of Wheatland, and the city of Stockton all updated their general plans and sent those to us. So the designated floodway program is also in our branch, and President Dolan, you're heavily involved in that. And those efforts are currently underway, where the board adopted the designated floodways in the 70s and 80s, and we're working to update those areas in conjunction with the groundwater agency and groundwater recharge efforts with your guidance, and that's currently underway.
Would you mind if I augmented that a bit?
Go ahead.
Statutory authority for the board to create designated floodways came in the 70s. It's a very important authority to have because floodwaters do need a place to go that's not people's homes, not destroying important infrastructure, not ending up in high schools, elementary schools, junior highs, hospitals. And it's laid dormant for quite a while, but the massive storms that we have seen these last two winters, particularly the one in 2023, indicated that floodwaters are going to go where they want to go. And where they're going to go, water always wins, right? And it would be better if we could designate that. And then from my view, which you all know, and I think that we agree with our own thought process and the plan, is that the way we can create that and have a multi-benefit of recharging groundwater to address the depletion in the San Joaquin Valley particularly would be very helpful. I don't think any of it's easy. It's not going to go the pace that I want, but we're making some inroads. And the fact that the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act actually passed and now it's achieving its 10th year where plans actually have to be approved or they become probationary is going to get some movement. And we're going to be part of that.
Agreed. Thank you. So the high-speed rail project is still ongoing. We have a number of crossings down there that's we're still issuing time variance requests for those. As you know, the flood season goes to July in that area, so processing those. We have the Delta Conveyance Project, the LMA reorganization. Our branch helps reorganize local maintaining agencies, consolidating them. A few months ago, we brought the consolidation of some LMAs in the the Lower Elkhorn Basin Project and LD1 and some of the other ones. And then staff's involved in the Silver Jackets program. And then also we're commenting, we have staff commenting on the draft Army Corps levy design guidelines. So our staff's involved in many different projects. So real quickly, I got one more slide before Selva. Selva has a great presentation for you. Some of the forecasted activities, like I mentioned, the transfer of credits, excess credits from the Sutter Basin project to the Lower San Joaquin, California project is gonna be before the board in the next few months. We have a site visit to Black Rascal Creek that staff's going to attend with the Army Corps of Engineers. And then correct, board staff will attend that. And the site 11 for the Mid-Valley Phase 3 project is slated to come before the board here shortly for permit consideration. And then like I already mentioned, the June 14th workshop that Andrea and other staff are working on, and it's going to be for a multi-project tour for the Lookout Slough and the Little Egbert multi-benefit project.
Just so we can say again that Ms. Buckley is the Deputy Executive Officer.
Thank you.
Other duties as needed.
With that, Selva Mohan will give an overview of the Sacramento levy section. Thank you.
Mr. Harvey, did you talk about a line there of LMA reorganization? And I was
Yes, ma'am.
not paying attention. Did you say something I didn't hear?
Just that our branch does a lot of reorganizations of the LMAs. We had LD1 and we had a few LMAs in the Lower Elkhorn project that we consolidated. So
You're working on resolving the horseshoe levy and the maintenance
we are.
area.
Yep.
Please do.
That's coming before the board here in the next few months. So we're working on that actively with the
Okay,
landowners.
well, now you know how we handle a conversation of conflict between local and the board. So bring something everybody likes.
We will do our best.
I know you will. Thank you.
Just the right one.
Good afternoon. Perfect.
Perfect.
Right. Good afternoon, President Dolan, Vice President Blynes, members of the board, Selva Mohan, Sacramento Levy Section Manager, and I'm happy to present the section's accomplishments over the last few months, beginning from this year. I will go through my presentation outline now. We'll introduce the section staff first. And then we'll touch on few flood control projects in the Sacramento region, namely American River Common Features 2016 project and the Natomas Basin project, to name two. And then we'll provide a section matrix, which includes permitting, enforcement, and inspection in and around the Sacramento region. Next, I will talk about the important project, which is Governor's Broadband Initiative Project, GBIP in short. And then I will wrap up my presentation by summarizing forecasted activities for the near future.
Okay, fair warning, as you introduce your staff, I'm going to ask that person to stand.
Yes, thank you. So here is my section staff. I'm overseeing the section since 2019. And then I have Kaushal here, and then Karina, if you can stand up. Israel, he has an appointment, so he has to go.
Oh, he was here earlier.
Oh, he was here earlier.
He's easy to find.
So I just wanted to thank, Karina and Kaushal and Israel, for their really hard,
Thank you.
work that they've been doing. So thank you, Karina, Kaushal, and Israel. Here's a map, showing the large flood control system improvement projects that's happening in and around the Sacramento region. To name under design and construction projects, American River Common Features 2016 project, Natomas Basin project, and Folsom Dam Race project. And few projects that are under closeout that are also shown in the map, which I'm not going to cover today. In my presentation, I will talk about the few elements of the ARCF 2016 project, as well as Natomas Basin project. The Sacramento River East Levee seepage stability construction is one component of the American River Common Features project, which includes cutoff hole construction from Sacramento to Freeport along the center line of the levee. The project was divided into multiple construction phases, and as you can see in this table, 3 phases were already completed, and SREL C4 is currently under construction and scheduled to complete in a couple of months. And then the last phase, SREL C5, is scheduled for construction in 25-26 timeline, which is currently under design and real estate stage. Project staff, have been working real close with the project partners as well as homeowners to make sure the encroachments are removed in a timely manner. And then, when they come back, to us for replacement, then we process their permits and performing field inspection. And if they construct any encroachments without any permit, then we initiate enforcement activities. So we pretty much cover all 3 elements: removal, inspection, and enforcement. In January, board members, visited the site of the Western Scott Seafood construction area, and also to see the pocket area. And they had, seen a few unpermitted construction in the zone. So it was a very good, field visit by everyone. You can see a couple of pictures. That work is happening right in front of the Scott Seafood restaurant/hotel.
It was the view from the restaurant side that was pretty startling as well.
That's
and
right.
how quiet it was.
That's right. Another element of the American River Common Features 16 project is the Sacramento River erosion construction, again from the Sacramento area all the way to Freeport, so along the Sacramento River East Levee. And this project was divided into 4 contracts: Contract 1, Contract 2, Contract 3, and Contract 4. First contract was completed in 2022, and 2 additional contracts are scheduled to start construction in about 6 weeks, July 1st, which is phase 2 of Contract 2 and Contract 4, which are shown in red in that table, middle column. Of interest here, major encroachments that interfere or impact the construction is the board docks. As you can imagine, there are a number of board docks along the riverbank, So over the last 2 years, section staff worked very closely with the federal partners and as well as other project partners and the homeowners to remove those board docks out from the project footprint so that the construction can begin without any major delays. So in the contract phases, which are going to start in 2 weeks or in 6 weeks, we identified 13 board docks and we worked with the homeowners and we were able to get 100% compliance to remove all those board docks from the construction footprint. And if I say, we worked hard means that's an understatement. Thank you.
These were homeowners in the pocket?
That's right.
I think that's a lot of communication and cooperation. So good for staff, good for homeowners as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Another phase of contract, contract 3, which is scheduled for construction in 25-26 timeline. And we are currently working with the homeowners to make sure those board docks are also removed. What you're seeing in this picture is sampled, pictures of board docks along the river bank. Typically, a board dock will have basic 3 elements: piles, which hold the board dock, and the board dock itself, and the ramp to get access to the dock. So when we work with the Army Corps of Engineers, we came up with that resolution that leave the piles in place and remove everything from the construction footprint. And
Leave what in place?
leave the piles which hold the board dock in place so they can work around the piles, because most of the work in this Sacramento River will be from a large barge from the riverside. So they said they could work from the barge and then they can leave the piles in place so they can work around the piles. So that's the option we gave it to the homeowners so they can leave the piles in place and remove the board dock and the gangway and everything that attached to it. And at the end of the construction, they can put back their board dock as well as the gangway. So these pictures show the site after removal of the board docks. Now you can see only the piles standing there. So the Army Corps of Engineers contract can work around those erosion work.
Oh, I thought you were showing us orphan things in the river.
No.
This is where what you saw before. This
And
is the
after.
arrangement made. Yeah, I
Correct.
can see how that was quite an accommodation to them.
Right. Another element of the American River Common Features 16 project is the Sacramento weir and bypass widening element. The weir and bypass will be widened about approximately 1,500 feet, and construction began last August, and it's targeted to complete in 25-26 timeline. There was a media event April 23rd, the site, and many dignitaries spoke at the event, including Congressman Matsui, and you can see the picture, kind of a formal groundbreaking ceremony. And on the right,
Get rid of that picture, would you? Yes. And the congressmember. It was a windy day.
it was very windy. Yes. Okay, here is an overview, picture of a construction, a view. You can see it from kind of the 30,000 picture level. The Sacramento River is at the very top of the picture. The pile installation is ongoing for the bridge, support, and then the fish passage is at the bottom of that picture. So it's kind of showing the extent of the large area of construction. Another project, which is Natomas Basin project, to improve the levees surrounding the Natomas Basin. And the project has multiple reaches. Few reaches were completed construction and few reaches are scheduled for completion in 25-27 timeline. This project involves a large number of utility relocation that need to be completed prior to construction begin. So staff have been working real close with the utility owners, CIMAT, AT&T, PG&E, and other utility owners to relocate their facilities outside from the construction footprint, so the Army Corps construction can proceed without any major delays.
That takes time.
This picture shows the primary utilities, which are power poles, utility poles that you can see along the Garden Highway in that area. So staff have been working real close to make sure these are moved away, relocated. At the end of the pocket area construction, the seepage stability construction, few homeowners constructed encroachments without a permit. They placed, as you can see, some stairs on the side of the slopes, as well as installed utility lines by excavating the recently constructed levee without any permit. So staff have been engaged with those owners to address those encroachments and then pursuing enforcement activities for violations. And to summarize the operational elements, permitting, enforcement, and inspection, the Sacramento levy section have been doing since the beginning of this year. We have issued 2 permits, and we are currently processing about 29 permits. We issued 1 work authorization and 5 minor alterations. When it comes to enforcement, we have issued 6 notification letters and issued 8 notice of violations, and issued or in the process of issuing 6 cease and desist orders. When it comes to inspection, we cover multiple ways to make sure the encroachments are, if it is in violation, removed properly, and if there is a utility relocation, it's done per the permit conditions. So we pretty much cover the basic elements of operational metrics. Next, I'll talk about that Governor's Broadband Initiative project. Just to highlight few backgrounds, in July 2021, Governor signed into Senate Bill 156 to provide broadband access to high-speed broadband service to all Californians. So what that means is up to 10,000 miles of broadband network that span the entire state of California. The project had a goal to construction by December 2026. So how we are, getting into this, project is a portion of the broadband conduits will cross over the adopted plan of flood control facilities, which are state plan of flood control, regulated streams, or designated floodways. So we have to make sure these lines are installed per the board standards and our regulations. So that's where our permitting process comes into play. So this picture shows kind of a geographical extent of permit applications we have received to date. From Reading in the north all the way to Bakersfield in the south, we have received many applications that spanned across the whole area. The light blue line shows the regulated streams or designated floodways in the background of that picture. And the white boxes are the fiber optic conduit locations.
Did you create that?
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
If you had the scale on that as well as the north arrow, we would really know the magnitude of what we need to pay attention.
Thank you. So it was a team effort. My staff helped me, and then we were able to put this together. Yeah.
No, but, yes. So
Thank you.
There's the Central Valley.
Thank you.
You told me earlier, it's just you.
Some of the elements.
Yeah, 2 of them were starting to get out of their chair. So.
So here is the status of where we are with the permit applications. To date, as of today, we have received 33 total permit applications, and of that, 23 are for fiber conduits, the real fiber lines, and 7 bridge applications and 3 culverts applications.
Is that all related to the broadband expansion?
That is correct.
Okay.
The table below shows the progress of the permitting timeline. So we have so far issued 4 permits, and we are scheduled to issue 6 more permits under EO delegation. So that will bring the total 10 permits by the beginning of June. And then we have about 7 existing bridge applications that are under process, and conduit and applications of 23 are currently under process. Just to highlight few timelines, we started receiving applications late September, October of last year. And since then, we've been receiving 1 or 2 applications every month. And then we did not receive any applications in March of this year. And then we started receiving 13 applications in April. And then last 2 days, we received 5 more applications. So it's kind of, hit and so altogether, yeah.
Turn your mic off.
So like you just said, it's a rolling, like I was going to ask, and you answered the question. So was 33 going to be it? I mean, do we have an idea of how many there will be?
Yeah, the initial estimate last year was 180 applications, but the revised estimate comes down to about 50 in total. So we are almost halfway there when it comes to fiber optic applications, the 23, and then halfway to go from there. So that's the best estimate we have. In terms of timeline to process these permit applications, the initial application took about 6 to 7 months because we have to go back and forth few iterations. The first set of applications have to be complete, and it was missing quite a lot of elements. And now we have kind of streamlined the process, and we anticipate to complete these project permits in 4 to 5 months timeline. And also to note that these applications do not involve Section 408 authorization. So we have 2 applications right now in the records, which are going to go to the Army Corps Section 408 review, and we have to work with the court to get those permits.
I'm going to tell you what you probably know, but maybe the board doesn't, and I'm going to put it on the transcript. This is President Dolan. I know that the board has asked and staff is really working on expediting these because it's a very important project and we don't want to be the stall, we want to be the star. But I have asked our executive officer and the chief engineer to figure out a way that when these are permitted, the board knows about it and it can be highlighted that we were part of something that is very important, bringing internet to disadvantaged communities. And in the month of April, when Chico lost all of its internet, we now are that as well.
Thank you.
That was pretty bad. Yeah, thank you for that. So you said there's some places where 408 is required?
So we are going to send 2 applications in the next coming weeks to the 408 for review. And
What area is that where there's some concern?
Lake County, those conduits are going to be in Lake County bridge crossing across the state plan of flood control. So once we submit the applications, we'll coordinate with the 408 to see, how their review goes.
Right. Yeah, well, that's territory that needs cultural look too. Yeah, okay.
Just to sum, this is my last slide, just to forecast few activities Sacramento Levy Section plan to do in the next coming months to continue to support the flood projects in the region and continue to process permit applications supporting the broadband network project and continue the enforcement on unpermitted encroachment construction in the region, process permit application for reconstruction of encroachments that were removed for the civil works project, and assist the Natomas Basin utility relocation effort, continue to inspect the encroachment removal, construction, utility relocations type of activities. And as each and every contract phase is completed, we'll be getting O&M manual from the Army Corps and we'll be transferring those responsibilities to LMAs in the coming months. So that completes my presentation. And thank you.
Wow, thank you. That's an amazing amount of work and responsibilities for the number of staff that we have. So I know I speak for all of us that the effort that you put in and the standard of work that you do and that you actually get it done is truly amazing. And it is why I asked you to give the presentation here, because so much of it is what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. We don't want you to bring every single inspection of an encroachment that needs to change, but the fact that you are doing it sometimes get lost. So if we can, but my view is we're gonna let folks know the importance of the Central Valley Flood Protection Board for life safety and infrastructure improvement, and that's a good thing.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you. You can all stand again. Wow. Mr. Harvey, is there more? Okay. I think that map of the Central Valley, or that depiction of the Central Valley and where all the permits are, if that could be put on a big poster and brought to board meetings, that would be a good visual. I just want to go by the board office and take those things off the walls and bring them to meetings too, but I can't figure out how to fit it in my car. What's a Ford board do? That would, just think about it. That's, yeah, but I like that. If I could have it on an 8.5 by 11 instead of 2 by 5, that'd be helpful. Did you say yes? Okay. All right, then that completes the board items. Is that correct?
Correct.
I'll check. Department of Water Resources has provided us, as they do, a monthly report. Usually Mr. Countryman highlights something in that report for us. But maybe not. Okay. Thank you, Department of Water Resources, for delivering that each month. We appreciate it. Member Bosler?
I was just excited to see several meetings that were reported on regarding the plan in the different regional flood management planning areas. So that was good to see that those conversations are happening and proceeding, and we're getting some good dialogue already on that next update.
Did that occur in one of the regional planning areas that's on your list?
It did. Yeah.
good.
Yeah. At first I thought when I read it the first time, because I wrote notes, I'm like, get those reports. But I think it's the same presentation that was given here that they're now
Oh,
taking
that's
on the
probably
road
right.
show.
Yes.
And they're going to Mid San Joaquin and Upper San Joaquin as well.
Yeah, no, it's a very comprehensive presentation. It's okay to see it more. For me, it is. I'll need it, otherwise I'll forget. Okay, anyone else? So we'll let them know that. Okay, staff activity reports. We got a written update that came either last night or this morning. This morning to me, because I didn't look at things after time last night, of our administrative division. Someone had a hand up? Oh, Mr. Countryman, your hand is up.
A second. Yes, it is.
Okay, hello.
I just wanted to comment on the item 11B operations branch. Had an item in there concerning the beavers. I'd like to, actually, if the staff could present more about this, because I have a personal experience with beavers in the Delta, and it's not a good experience. The one of the districts I was working for, this is back in the 90s, gave me a call about in August sometime, saying that water was coming out the back of the levee. And we ran out there, we couldn't see anything. The water was clearly, every time the high tide came up, water was running out the back of the levee. So we got a backhoe out there, tore into the levee, and lo and behold, there was a beaver den in the center of that levee.
Oh my goodness.
And if we had had high water, that levee would have blown out and everybody would have been saying, gee, I wonder what caused that blowout. Because of course there would be nothing left. And if I understood this item, the Fish and Wildlife is advocating for increasing the beaver population in the Delta. And if that's the case, we have to take a very strong position on this. There's just no way we can support something like that. So what is the status of that?
Who wants to take that on? Yes, I think some more information. I think I read that too quickly, so I didn't see that. I know there's use of beavers to slow floodwaters down in hillsides, but I didn't know having more of those in the Delta, which is a good idea. No one wants to take it on right now, Joe, but that's identified as bringing more information to us.
Okay, yeah, well, there's no immediate action, but I think
Well,
it's
no,
something we
yeah.
need to really keep track of because this,
All
I couldn't think of a worse thing to happen to the Delta, frankly.
right. Certainly don't want, no. We will send that to the enforcement division.
Okay,
Glad somebody laughed.
whoever wrote that piece under the operations sec, maybe
Operations Beavers,
they can
okay.
expand on it later.
All right. Mr. Wright's making a note there. All right, we'll go to 11, written reports, administrative division. Thank you for that. Operations, we're going to get more information on the beaver part. Flood system improvement given today. Thank you. Member
I just
Bosler.
like to highlight things that other people probably don't get excited about, but I'm very excited about the online permitting program and also about this ability to show the applicant's status, which is being coded. And I think
Yes.
that has been shown to improve the feelings that people have about where their application is when they can understand where it is in the process. So I think that's a really good addition. And I also want to acknowledge that the staff did meet with the Office of Digital Innovation, which are this organization that's fairly new in state government, but they're really focused on how we can harness digital to really improve the experience of people who have to or need to interact with government. And so I think that all of their careful attention, our staff's careful attention to the implementation of that is going to be a really good thing for the long term and improve customer service.
Information, customer service, tracking, transparency. And I think for some applicants, it will indicate where their responsibility needs to come forward as well. So yeah, good stuff. One more password I have to figure out, right? Right. That's okay. Environmental Services Land Management Division, Flood Planning and Programs. Is that all under one person now? Our Deputy Executive Officer is doing that as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Your spare time. Okay. Well, good for you. Okay. Anyone else want to bring something forward or highlight under the staff activity reports? Member Bosler.
Well, I'm not sure this is in the staff activity report, but it's related to the letter that was issued by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers regarding engineering with nature, or what was
yes.
nature-based solutions.
Right.
It seems really, really big in the big arc, and there's many here that have many more decades of experience in this world, but it seems like a really big deal. My only reservation is that I don't see a lot of statute that's been passed through Congress. And so that feels like some risk, but it's very exciting. It seems like it's really moving in the right direction. And I'm just, want to acknowledge what a big deal that letter is in an organization that, for lots of reasons, is very slow in a lot of cases. I don't mean that in a pejorative way to make change. I think that it's gonna, be a really big deal for the next 50 years to come. So.
Thank you.
Yes, no, thank you for bringing that forward. When I looked at that, I thought there's got to be some way to bring that forward. Okay, Member Johnson? No, is that it?
Yeah, no, I just echoing Board Member Bosler. Thank you for mentioning that. I had the same reaction and didn't think to say it now. And if and when it's appropriate for our staff and the Corps to tell us more about what that means in real life, I would certainly welcome that. And I do question sometimes whether, changing circumstances at Congress will have the Corps keep it up. But for what it's worth, I am aware of a couple of times in the not too distant past where Congress did take steps to reshape the way that the Corps sees its mission, and I think in a very good way, in a way that's consistent with this approach. And so thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you for that. All right. Anyone else want to bring forward something that would be related? It had to be something they put in the report, because report came, we got that letter after the agenda got all its information. So, yeah, it'd be good to have some more information. I'd like to see Mr. Connor come and tell it all.
Guess I'm
Give it all
really
to us.
talkative right now. Can I speak one more time? So I had an opportunity to join Jane at the event just north of Sacramento here and at the Weir. And I just want to reflect on what a strong and educated on this topic specifically advocate we have in Congress with Representative Matsui. And a few of us lamented that should not be taken for granted. This is a complicated, long arc issue. All infrastructure is, but especially flood protection. And I think it just is really incumbent on all of us that are in this field to do what we can to educate our elected leaders, because we're not going to always have Ms. Matsui, but she's like such a staunch advocate for making sure that we're focused on this issue. And there are just so many issues that our elected leaders have to face, like flood is just one more thing. And it's also something that if you don't have personal experience like Mary Jane and others, it's not at the top of your list always. But finding ways to tell the story of the importance of these investments, especially in the face of a changing climate, I think is something that I'm thinking a lot about, and I would encourage others on the board and in the audience to do as well, because it's really, really important that we have those advocates in Congress, in our state legislature, to understand the importance.
I'll bring you with me to talk with Congressman Lamalfa. Member Johnson, and then Member Countryman, Fran.
Yes, and Joe, if your comment was a follow-on to specifically to Keeley, you should go first. I have a different board update.
Okay, I have partial follow-on. I had experience to work with Congressman Matsui, both the husband and the wife, and they deserve so much credit for how they've moved flood protection in the valley forward. I just can't overemphasize it. We're really lucky to have people that saw the problem and were able to do something about it. The second thing I had was I just wanted to let the board know that I had a meeting this week, Zoom meeting this week on exploring what we do with the 1955-57 design profiles that the Corps provided us and how they're used and how do we incorporate the design changes that have taken place, like the setback levees, for instance, on the Feather River, and climate change hydrology. You know, it's kind of a mixed up thing right now on how those 55, 57 profiles should be used. After all, they were drawn before Oroville Dam was in place, before New Bullards Bar Dam was in place, just as an example, before the levee setbacks were there. What do they actually mean at this point in time? So we had some of the local district engineers participate in this call, and they brought up some issues. So anyway, I'm working on this and I intend to keep working on it. I want to talk to Ryan at the Corps of Engineers about it. And I'd like to find a way to incorporate the climate change information along with the construction and design change things that have happened in the new update, flood plan update. So we can see in one place, you know, where we are going with the climate change, where we were in 1955, 57, and where we are now with the modifications, the Sacramento Weir modification, the Feather River modification, hopefully the Paradise Cut modification. So this is just to let you know, this is something I have been working with Michael Wright, and I want to keep following up on it.
Maybe we should put an agenda item for your update every quarter or something. You have brought this up many times, and I just really appreciate your leadership to get this moving off Half Center. I'm looking at the board, and many of us, not you and me, Joe, weren't alive when this standard was set up. But the fact that it was done before these dams is clearly outdated, and it was done when everything was being put in a typewriter, not online. So go for it.
Okay, and when we have
Everybody
something
saying
to
no?
report, we'd be happy to do it.
Yep, okay. Thank you, Joe. Brian?
Thank you. And thank you, Board Member Countryman. I am really glad that you're doing that. I don't know enough about the engineering and technology to know how to fix it, but I know enough about the climate projections and the policy implications of the way things are done to be fully in support of your asking these questions and pushing it forward. And if you want to pair up with a board member to add, you know, legal policy to what you're doing, call me or have staff bring me in. Super interested in that, as you know. I have one update also that I want to mention. I participated at the Aqua conference a few days back on a panel with Carla and Eric Oppenheimer, the executive officer at the State Water Board, moderated by Kristen Peer, who's a former water deputy at Cal EPA. And the topic was weather whiplash and how we're simultaneously managing now for extended dry periods punctuated by, you know, massive series of atmospheric rivers and life-threatening floods. And it was a very good presentation. One of the things that I think Eric was the one who pointed this out, noticed was that it was maybe the first time that our three agencies had been on a panel, and anybody could remember talking about these integrated solutions together. Or Carla, you know, couldn't remember one anyway. And as we presented, I also want to shout out to the flood plan team for helping us with some stats and helping me fact check some of my own analysis that we used. And I'll Are y'all still hearing me?
Yes, we are. And we're
Okay.
awake.
And we had a little audience participation moment there, and I'm going to do it for you all too. And don't worry, I won't ask you to say anything out loud, but I asked folks in the crowd to make, if they didn't know the answer for sure, to make a silent estimate in their own heads as to the peak flows last year during this extraordinarily wet year, how large those flows were compared to the climate change scenarios that we model for the flood plan. And we gave them a couple of clues. One being that the total precipitation and total runoff last water year was almost historic record, probably 92% or so of the highest year on record. And there were also some short duration periods and a few 21-day periods that did have historic markers for precipitation, like nothing seen in our record. And so I asked, and I did this for the San Joaquin Valley because the Sacramento was merely above average, right? But so for the San Joaquin Valley of Vernalis, how high were the peak flows compared to our climate change scenarios? So y'all got your number in your head? I know we've got some ringers who know the answer probably because it's your job to know the answer specifically. So you can all pat yourself on the back that you know the answer. 10%. Flows last year peaked at Vernalis at a little over 34,000 CFS, which is pretty significantly below even pre-climate change 20th century flows. The baseline for the flood plan was 77,000 CFS, and the three climate models were 117, 192, and 379,000 CFS for the high climate change scenario. And the reason for that is because it was a very dry February. The precipitation fell as snow and not rain, and then it stayed cold and melted, over a long period of time. So the Vernalis only got a little bit above flood stage, and it stayed above monitor stage for 3 months. And so despite the damage we saw and even some loss of life, we also got very lucky, and that's what we're up against with the flood.
Well, thanks for sobering us up. Wow, because we saw the damage from that, and I translated that to it had to be high. And now you're saying our future is, we're not ready for our future. Wow. All right.
I had a hard time believing the answer, and I went back to folks to confirm that it was right, and that's what.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Okay. Okay, well, thanks for that lesson. Whew. Okay, no more hands up? Mr. Blind, you have 2 more times that you could say something.
Nope, I'm good. That was one.
Everybody's done. All right. Well, we've already done board comments. Anything else? So we've got upcoming meetings. Is that accurate that we're going to have the coordinating committee one day after holiday? Okay. I think it's going to be somewhere in West Sacramento. It's not, I don't think it's at City Hall. It all depends on whether they get their carpet replaced in that room that we always are. So when there's a notice, we'll know where it is, somewhere in West Sacramento. It's going to be in West Sacramento. I mean, how long does it take? I'm not going to go do their carpet work. We have a board workshop on June 24th, and we're going to do a tour. Does someone want to say how we're going to do that? Are we all driving our own cars to Lookout Slough?
We're arranging
'Cause I'm not.
common transportation.
That'd be great. We love to be in a van and all talk to each other. Hopefully the budget doesn't cut that off. Okay, no, because some of us were out Lookout Slough for the groundbreaking. So to see what it is right now is going to be fascinating. At Little Eggbird, wherever that is. Okay, and then our next board meeting is on Friday, June 28th. Right here.
Dolan, if I may.
Well, you didn't give me any warning. Is this good? Is this good news?
No, I just wanted to say
Of course you can.
that, although the
This
board,
is our executive officer, by the way.
the board calendar indicated we'd have a workshop in July, and we are not going to have a workshop in July. Instead, we're going to schedule a workshop in September where we don't have one currently scheduled. So just to let people know that change.
It's the second Friday. Thank
The
you for bringing that up.
workshop in September will be on the 13th. Yes, just for you.
September 13th. Okay. You did send me an email on that and I didn't bring it. I was a little focused on another agenda item, but thank you for that. Yes, a little arrangement of the calendar. Just one meeting in July then, our business meeting on the fourth Friday, and then September gets added one that we did not calculate. Sounds good. Appreciate your work putting these, staff, appreciate your work putting the workshops together. It's helpful for us, helpful to let the world know what we're doing too. Okay, anything else for the good of the order? Mr. Executive Officer? Ms. Deputy Executive Officer? Staff? Board? No hands up? We're adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Joe. Give me some heads up on that. Oh, we didn't have one.
What's that? Oh, you do?